Alright, stick with me here. I woke up totally lost, instantly realizing this was not my crappy little apartment. He gives off total boss vibes. The second and third brothers already have their own lands and titles, freezing winds, constant raids, and a brutal mindset of if you cannot fight, why are you even here? I can't keep doing this. Something inside of me just snapped. You and I both know what happens when you collapse from overwork and your brain just screams stop. Go home now. And hit me instantly visit Snow Wolf territory. Find my father and convince him to lend me experienced administrators, administrative officers, ill bureaucratic team. Because if I have to settle another land dispute myself, I'll be the first Dark Lord to die from a stroke caused entirely by paperwork, and that would be a highly embarrassing death. And the most urgent documents at lightning speed. Military supplies, festival logistics, done. Then I pulled the bell cord. Me, Lane, and Martin. They appeared instantly, giving 2 formal salutes. Wasted 0 time. Gentlemen, our military structure is solid, built something real. Winning this territory relies entirely on me, caffeine, and pure spite. They say the kingdom's finest knights are born in the capital, but they are forged right here in the north, and all 3 are running dangerously low, gestured to the mountain of paperwork like it was crime scene evidence. I'm returning to Snow Wolf territory with 2 goals. First, secure administrative staff from my father, experienced officials who can run things without their lord having a complete mental breakdown, into supplies and recruit settlers for the spring planting. Then I stared directly at Martin. While I'm gone, you are the acting governor. The man stared at me like he'd won the lottery and been struck by lightning. You can easily picture his face of absolute shock. He was speechless, and I gave him no time to react. Winter is coming. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Finish the shelters in every village before the deep freeze hits. Roofs finished, walls up, 0 exceptions. Death, it's on us. Priority 2, clear agricultural land. Those new mines Lane discovered deep in the Orc territory. In preliminary exploration and set up basic extraction. 3 tasks are 3 pillars of survival. Those arrogant royal knights arrive thinking they are invincible, but leave humbled once the Northmen brutally crushed their pride. Shelter, food, and resources in that exact order. What are the most critical tasks in our entire domain right now? And dropped to his knees, fist slamming his chest. Boom. From fear, but from the massive weight of this responsibility. He knows his place in the hierarchy. Peak silver rank, strong, loyal, and experienced. Standing next to Lane and 10 gold rank warriors, single candle next to 10 blazing suns. Feels it daily. I never treated him as inferior, because he isn't. Him is my sword, and Martin is my foundation. Swords win battles, but foundations win wars. Now I handed him the keys to the entire territory, showing my complete trust. Level of absolute faith from a lord to his subordinate, in a world full of paranoia and strict hierarchy, is worth far more than gold, more than promotions or raw power. He would already die for me, but today he'd do it twice. That's just how it is. I'm heading home to recruit administrators from my father. Martin manages the territory while Lane keeps watch over the realm. Now pay close attention because my brand new territory, Kangland, sits right on the edge of this danger zone, and somewhere in Shattered Thorn Valley, 200 goblins are busy doing what they do best, breeding like crazy to serve as combat practice for my troops. Everything is set, the machine is moving, and final piece left, who actually loves paperwork. I would rather fist fight a gold rank troll than read another tax report. Mathematically calculated which option would hurt less. The troll wins by a landslide. Ordered Martin to stand up, calm down, and coordinate with the castle butler. Keep training the guards. Trust me, you and I are going to watch these soldiers get forged under extreme winter cold. Alright, you and I are about to watch this guy completely shock his entire family. Then he marches off like he just got the promotion of a lifetime. The door shuts, leaving only Lane and me. Lane, gather 5 cataphracts and 50 civil cavalry riders, coming with me to the Snow Wolf territory. 55 elite guards, 5 gold rank killing machines leading the way, with 50 bronze rank heavy cavalry backing them up. Honestly, the geography is a total blessing. To the south is Eagle's Sorrow Canyon, a pass so steep and narrow that defending it is easy. You just put a few guards at the entrance and done. Complete overkill for a simple visit to my father? Absolutely, but there is one crucial detail. In returning to your family estate after weeks away, you do not just show up. Roll in with a massive convoy. Last time they saw me, I was a talentless weakling, boarding a fancy carriage with borrowed guards and a prayer. This time I return with my own army, my own knights, and my own banners. Let everyone see what this useless fifth son built in just 2 weeks. His eyes gleam with understanding. No questions asked, just affirm as you command, my lord. A fist to his chest and he is off. His response is faster than my system loading screen. Cut to 30 minutes later, just 30 minutes. Efficiency. 55 riders stand assembled in the castle courtyard in perfect formation. Silent, terrifying. 5 cataphracts in dark gold armor lead the way, their blue eyes glowing atop massive building-sized horses. Pay attention here, the very air around them feels heavy, like gravity itself is bending. Behind them, 50 civil cavalrymen clad in red cold iron armor. Spears point skyward like a dense forest of steel. Behind it lies my family's wolfland, secure as a bank vault. Their sabers are sheathed but ready. Each man is a bronze rank veteran who slaughtered trolls and orcs just last week. Right in the center sits my carriage, that ridiculous gold-trimmed rolling palace my family sent me away in, still absurdly flashy, radiating that classic vibe of having way more money than actual taste. Now guarded like an emperor's war chariot instead of a rich kid's toy, I roll out of the castle and pause right at the gate, and brushes against the snow wolf crest on the side. Old metal, a highly familiar shape. For a moment I think of my family, the Snow Wolf clan, fierce, cunning, and ruthless, yet fiercely protective of their own. Sure, my father and siblings constantly pressured me for my weak talents. Finally realized those harsh words were not rejection, pure worry. Wolves trying to ensure their weakest pup could survive in a world that eats the weak alive. Wild on the outside, warm on the inside. That is why the Windsors have survived 1,000 years, only growing stronger. They never abandon their own blood, they sharpen it. The west, the continental divide mountains, a massive range separating us from the mysterious dwarf kingdom. Well, you and I both know this Windsor is now a dark iron knight with an army. Hope I make you proud, Dad. Inside, my lord. The butler swings the door open. A wave of warmth greets me, and I step in. Door closed. Cozy fur cushions, perfect climate control, and absolute silence. Golden wolves carved into the armrests feel different now. No longer borrowed luxury, but a reminder of my true heritage. Peering through the glass window, I watch my loyal knights standing tall in their formation. Formation, my army, built from scratch in 2 weeks using a cheat system, gold, and sheer determination. Lane mounts up front and raises his right arm. Signal, the horn blasts, and 55 horses charge forward as one. Thunder of iron hooves, striking the frozen earth, feels like a heartbeat, vibrating through the entire world. 5 golden colossi lead the march, while 50 bronze warriors flank the sides of my carriage. A trail of snow kicks up behind us like a pursuing white dragon as we pass the gates toward the southern highway. Dangerous, absolutely, but packed with rich minerals. It is my ticket to becoming a multi-millionaire. Road to the wolf territory is completely cleared by my own guard patrols. A mile brings me closer to home. Leaning back against the snow bear pelt, I watch the frozen wastelands fade away outside my window. Exact same path I traveled weeks ago. Terrified, insecure, and marching into the unknown with borrowed gear. I can't wait to see their reactions. I'm no longer the youngest begging for scraps, but a lord with real power. Last time, my family packed me off like a charity case because they were terrified I would starve to death. This time, I will march straight through that front door and show them the massive return on their investment. Ron Windsor left this place as a total charity case. Ron Windsor returns as a force of nature. Still need administrators, but at least I will ask for them looking like I actually deserve them. Presence is everything. People always respect a gold rank escort. After a few days of travel, our frozen surroundings begin to completely shift. Less icy wasteland, more actual civilization. Snow thins out, green shrubs appear, and the air finally stops burning my lungs. The north lies the endless frozen wasteland, crawling with monsters waiting to eat me alive. Frostwolf City is finally in sight, and I are about to see absolute chaos. Come along with me, because after weeks in a ruined border castle surrounded by freezing mud, coming back to this place feels entirely different. This city is absolute madness. Grey granite walls towering dozens of meters high, covered in old battle scars and defensive runes that glow with blue energy, pulsing just like a beating heart. And magic towers stand everywhere, their tips shining with arcane light, and more like a mountain that decided to become a massive fortress. Even in dead winter, the main road was packed with caravans, armed escorts, and merchants from everywhere. Exactly what 1,000 years of accumulated wealth and absolute military power looks like. A city that never sleeps because there is just too much money to count. We arrived at the gates with 5 gold rank cataphracts in front and 50 bronze cavalry soldiers behind us. Anywhere else, this would cause absolute panic. But in Frostwolf City, the guards did not even blink. Here, legendary warriors walk right beside you like it is nothing, just buying bread. Orc invaders, sneaky tribes of kobolds, giant ogres, and terrifying trolls carrying clubs bigger than my entire carriage. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Honestly, it was humbling. The guards checked us with total efficiency, professional, cold, disciplined, classic Snowwolf style. But I noticed the officer stared at my 5 cataphracts for way too long. He remembered how I left a month ago, and my return was completely different. Pay close attention here. His face practically screamed, "What on earth happened to you out there before coming back?" I'd clean stone streets even in winter. Shops, taverns, blacksmiths, and guilds. Smell of fresh bread and hot iron, mixing with horse sweat and crisp winter air. People bundled up in furs, moving fast, living their lives in a city that has flourished for an entire millennium. Wolf patrols everywhere, fully armed and alert. Every now and then, an elegant mage or a show-off noble strutted through the streets. This city has levels: wealth, power, magic, and military, all stacked like a costly and very dangerous cake. The closer we got to the center, the grander everything became. The 4th, Leon, studies at an elite magic academy like some wizard school, and me, just little Ron. All of them are lurking hungry. But the east is peaceful. My grandfather, the Grand Duke's territory, is right next door, until we reached the inner wall, built of even more colossal grey stone, where the proud banner of the Windsors flew high. Silver wolf howling in the blizzard, my family crest. Lane stepped forward to show my identity token to the commander, inspected it carefully, then looked at our formation. His eyes locked onto the 5 cataphracts and did not budge. The look on his face was priceless, a perfect mix of deep respect, disbelief, and absolute shock at what the 5th son was bringing home. The gates swung open, welcoming us to a courtyard filled with pines and ice sculptures. Stopped right in front of Snowwolf Manor, my family home. I know what you are thinking, and yes, it makes my castle look like a shack. The old butler waited outside with the servants. As I stepped out of the carriage, his eyes widened for a split second. First pure shock, then warm welcome. "Come home, 5th young master?" The count is waiting in his study. Me, Lane, and the cataphracts stood like gold statues. 5 gold rank auras heavy in the courtyard air. Servants tried acting normal next to powerhouses capable of leveling a whole city block. Cousin, another border baron, is my immediate neighbor, and I just passed through his lands. "Take me to him," I told them, calm and steady as if I had done it 1,000 times. Let me describe this place, because the Wolf Fortress deserves its own introduction. Not just a castle, the monument built of ash and obsidian, stone harder than steel mined from the north, with walls so thick they block the sky. Every surface is covered in ancient defensive runes that glow in blue and pulse like living veins. The whole fortress is wrapped in a magic barrier reinforced by generations of family mages. 6 massive magic towers ring the outer perimeter. One is a level 6 combat facility, built with mithril alloy and obsidian, fully loaded with complex arcane circuits. Their tips are crowned with elemental crystals that constantly absorb raw ambient magic. The space near those towers actually warps because of the extreme magic density. Any intruder drawing near would face enough fire to be erased from existence. The best part, legendary towers in the center. Uncle Andre's Frost Raven Fortress is the main defense line. Anything goes wrong, I call for help, and an Imperial army arrives. First, my mother's Frost Moon Tower is slender, elegant, and looks as if it were carved directly from moonlight. It glows a silvery white, with star runes surrounded by freezing air that bends sunlight into sparkling rainbow dust. Beautiful and absolutely terrifying. This tower represents my mother's power as a half-step Lord rank mage, 1 step below legendary tier. She could freeze your soul into art. Tower 2 is the crown of eternal winter, belonging to my grandmother. Massive, towering, made of dark blue magic crystal, and covered in frost that never melts. And trust me, you and I will never forget seeing that floating crown of ice shining bright blue every single night. Come with me to see this tower that controls the weather, making it snow 100 meters out, even in summer. Sheer pressure makes your soul tremble. My grandmother is a grand mage, the absolute peak of the entire Northern Kingdom. That tower is no home, it is a strategic weapon. Nobody sane has ever dared attack the Snow Wolf territory. Legendary towers, and two women standing at the absolute peak of magical power. The strategy here is obvious. We'll build a fort in that southern canyon. Mother and grandmother are the true heads of the family. Yes, I come from this incredibly savage bloodline. Fortress wrapped in ancient magic, guarded by 6 massive towers of war, and by 2 mage queens and a terrifying army. Yet the youngest of this family was seen as the ultimate disappointment. But that is over. 55 assassins behind me and black iron power in my veins. I'm to show father what his weakest son managed to build in just 30 days. Look at this, I was standing outside my father's office with sweaty palms. I can fight goblins and lead cavalry charges. Look closely at this specific door. My 16-year-old self screamed in terror, because it is not just any entrance. This is the entrance to my father's office, Aeon Windsor, the Count of Snow Wolf himself. Every memory of crossing this threshold in this body brings back a cold, painted look from a man who can crush entire buildings with just his aura. I wiped my palms on my pants, subtle calm, not nervous at all. He knocks. Send my troops north to block the monsters, and once things quiet down, raid that western mountain range like a piggy bank. Father, I am home. Absolute silence, the kind that physically weighs on you. Simple come in was all I heard. His deep, colossal voice vibrated with a power that pierced the oak door and shook my soul. If thunder spoke or a giant glacier had its own opinions. Pushed the door open to enter. It felt like standing at the edge of an abyss during a hurricane of pure authority, where the cliff is your own confidence. My father's aura hit me like a solid wall. The air felt thick as syrup, and breathing hurt like swallowing bricks. My heart stopped. A new Ballora black iron seed, which I was so proud of, flickered like a candle in a massive typhoon. Almost went out. A 7th rank Sky Knight. My father is one think about how absolutely insane that is. Just reached rank 2 black iron. Old rank artifacts, which wiped out orc bosses in 15 seconds, are only rank 5. And my father is rank 7 without even trying. He is just sitting there signing documents, but his sheer presence is enough to mentally crush any lower ranked knight. I know what you're thinking, but Kangland was not abandoned. The last fool who tried to develop this place. I know what you are thinking, but I have to ask this man for help, while my knees shake. Zero pressure. Except for the actual pressure crushing every cell in my body, coming from someone who exists on a completely higher level. No ordinary room, it felt like a war room crossed with a museum of absolute intimidation, boasting high ceilings with magical crystal chandeliers, while dominating the main wall hung a giant map of the north made of monster hide, featuring magic ink symbols that moved in real time. Mountains, rivers, fortresses, troop positions, and monster territories. All of it updating instantly on the map. Beneath the map, 2 blood-stained battle swords crossed the wall. They were not simple decorations, they were worn weapons that saw real war. Massive bookshelves were packed, not with fantasy novels, but with pure military theory, historical battle analyses, kingdom law codes, monster encyclopedias, and highly classified secret reports. Some shelves held glowing minerals and preserved magical specimens. This was not the library of just any random noble. The son of a capital marquis, full of big dreams, got mercilessly crushed by invading trolls. This was the mind of a general made physically real. In the massive obsidian desk sat my father, Aeon Windsor, wearing a ceremonial grey suit with a Snow Wolf King fur cape, not even bother to look up at me, writing notes on his documents using a fine mithril pen embedded with small glowing sapphires, so relaxed and indifferent as if his youngest son had not just arrived with 5 gold-ranked knights in the courtyard. His presence, my goodness, how imposing. Not giant or muscular like my older brother Carlos. Sitting right there, he became the center of gravity for the entire room. The fireplace flames were literally lower near him due to an invisible force. Even the light seemed to bend slightly before his massive power. Sky Knight domain pressure. He does not even need to consciously activate it or show off. Mere existence demanded respect. Air around him carried an impossible mix of infinite sky above and crushing weight below, like being deep underwater. Every instinct in my body ordered me to run. His castle fell. Did he fight to the end, heroically leading his men? Not at all. He ran away terrified. Seed trembled, and my legs grew weak. But stay with me to see if I can survive this heavy pressure. Get ready as we watch our main character endure through pure strength. Gathered every last ounce of willpower, stood tall just 3 steps from his desk, and held my ground because I am no longer the old Ron. I am not some talentless fifth son walking in with his head bowed. I am a lord. I have land, an army, a system, and I killed the gold-rank troll boss. Well, my men did it, but it is my army, so it counts. I reached Black Iron with pure empire-building strategy. I refused to bow to my own father, no matter how much my body is begging me to. Stood there in silence, waiting with a steady gaze and locked knees out of pure stubbornness. My father kept writing. The fire crackled, and my heartbeat was so loud he could probably hear it. Standing before the most powerful man I had ever seen, separated from me by only 3 steps, an obsidian desk, and about 5 ranks of martial arts superiority. Hello, father. Your disappointing son has returned home with homework. Study was in absolute silence save for his pen and the crackling fire. Bolted back to Snow Wolf City faster than anyone thought humanly possible. Yes, trembling before his aura. And the fireplace was too terrified to burn properly. He finished writing, set his pen aside, and looked directly at me. Because if you know that classic annoyed dad look, multiply it by 10,000. His icy eyes pierced right through me. He was analyzing my body, soul, power level, intentions, and probably even my financial history. Completely naked, transparent, like a glass toy standing before a god. There was no welcome home, son. No hugs, no affection. Just the clinical evaluation of a being who lives on a plane of reality I can barely comprehend. The north wind, he said, and every single word struck my chest like a heavy hammer wrapped in. Frost, it seems it hasn't broken you. He watched me endure, pale and jaw clenched, refusing to fall under the aura of a 7th-rank knight. My black iron seed felt like it was suffering a seizure inside my chest. Every cell in my body screamed at me to kneel, but I held on. Then something incredible happened. He left the Frost Raven Knights standing in the ruins, wondering if it was a joke. After that massive embarrassment, the ice on my father's face melted. Pressure vanished instantly, as if someone had flipped a switch. 1 second I was suffocating before an apex predator, the next nothing. Room, a crackling fire and normal gravity. Completely out of nowhere, my father burst into a massive laughter that shook the entire place. His eyes shifted from an icy tundra to glowing pride in half a second. And change left me totally dizzy. Good. He slapped the desk and leaped right over it. He moves like a panther when approaching. Those blue eyes were shining now, scanning me from head to toe as if I were the greatest gift he had ever received. That is my wolf pup. In just 1 month, you conquered that frozen hell, killed monsters, and reached Black Iron. Well done. Excellent. His massive hand slammed down onto my shoulder. I almost face planted, but trust me, that overwhelming force was far from a punishment. All right, let's dive into this family reunion where a terrifyingly strong dad tries to hide how incredibly proud he is. Everyone wonders what the 5th son does, planting flowers in the garden. I trained hard since childhood, but my body never responded. My uncle Andre cleaned up the mess, rescued refugees, and gathered 10,000 people. He knew about my 10 mysterious gold-rank knights and the 10,000 settlers appearing out of nowhere. Secret reports told him about my rapid military growth and monster hunting, yet he never asked how I did it. In this family, everyone has secrets and strokes of luck. What matters is not where your power comes from, but how you use it. My father watched a useless son leave and return just 1 month later as a powerful feudal lord with his own army. That was all he needed to know. Questions would come later, or never. He is a Windsor, after all. Windsors do not interrogate their own blood. They observe, evaluate, and decide if you are a wolf or a sheep. Phew! The heavy pressure lifted. I gasped for air, sweat dripping down my temples as my trembling legs barely held me up. Still, I could not help but smile like an idiot. Sure, I am technically a 30-something transmigrator with a cheat system and an army, but hearing my father say well done with that look in his eyes, it honestly felt completely different, pierced right through to my 16-year-old self, who had watched his brothers receive praises while he only got heavy sighs, plus selected settlers from his lands. He moved them here and left 10 silver rank knights guarding everything until I arrived. The side of me that only wanted to make him proud. "I'm back. You did well." Another heavy pat on the shoulder, but this time I braced myself. "The nonsense, kid. You did not travel with gold rank escorts just to see me. What is it that you need? Speak up and stop playing games. I can tell you are bringing trouble just by how you move." "Charming as always, Dad. Nothing gets past you, and I need to watch closely as the Kanglin domain thrives and our borders are finally secured. With the army ready and monsters slain, other issues are piling up. Counting on my fingers, first comes the people. Come with me here. 20,000 people sounds huge, but to clear lands, roads, and walls, it is not enough. I need to buy a massive number of servants, as many as possible. Spring sowing demands so many hands. And second, the food, winter reserves and spring seeds. There is a massive deficit. What I produce and plunder is not enough for this many people and the army. Third, and this is seriously killing me putting on my most pathetic face, I do not have a single administrator. Thanks, Uncle. You are the best. Not even one. Every dispute, tax calculation, construction permit, and supply request ends up directly on my desk. I'm doing it all myself. I need officers, administrative agents, governance specialists, and tax experts people to run the territory so I do not drown under a mountain of paperwork. Me some talent. Father stared at me with the cold intensity of a highly disappointed deity. Come here and instantly demand administrators, governors, and tax officials, and all of them top tier. You think qualified bureaucrats grow on trees? It takes me a whole year just to train a few talented ones, and you want to just walk in and take them. Well, the Snow Wolf Academy, I play my trump card with a hopeful smile. Grandfather's elite institution, the best breeding ground in the north. Surely you have some spare graduates. Will not even be noticed. Dad laughed and yelled that talent is precious and it definitely would be noticed. Watch closely, because here is where politics get really complicated. So I inherited a town, 3 villages, a barely standing castle, and 10,000 souls waiting for their new lord. Not fancy, but it works. Elders of the branch families would go complain to your grandfather tomorrow that I play favorites and dismantle the clan. On a whim, I deflated instantly. Right, family politics. Only enemy my system cannot beat. The Windsor clan is absolutely massive. It is an immense network of branch families watching each other like hawks, ready to protest if anyone gets preferential treatment. I forgot that part. Stared at me with that look of his, the one that says you are smart enough to raise armies, but faggot basic family dynamics. Do not know whether to be proud or worried. Both, Dad. The answer is both. After watching me suffer for 3 seconds, he burst out laughing. Relax, I was just teasing you. You should see your face. Went back to his desk, opened a drawer, and tossed a sealed scroll to me like trash. Here, I already had it ready. Names of 12 outstanding graduates from the Snow Wolf Academy, and some veteran officers willing to relocate to the north. Administration, law and taxes, the complete package. Go see old Butler John to help you gather them. Fortress is standing and the walls can be fixed. All the golden troops my family gave me. I caught the scroll, almost crying with joy. He actually had them ready. Wonderful, terrifying god-tier troll of a father had my team prepared before I even asked. He knew I would come begging. You probably guessed it, right? In this family, love is shown through pure psychological warfare. Thank you, father. Calm down, you look ridiculous. He tried to frown, but his eyes betrayed that warm secret pride only fathers have. And as for food, do not cry to me. And your brother, Fletcher. That boy has enough grain stored up to feed our entire clan during a 5-year war. The biggest grain merchant in the north, backed by our family and your grandfather, the Grand Duke. His warehouses make my castle look small. Yes, sir. Fletcher, my 3rd brother. The walking supermarket already marked down on my list. I'll get out of my study. Dad shooed me away like a fly. Go see your mother. She has been so worried about you. His tone shifted, heavier and more careful. Go pay your respects to your grandfather. Stood at attention. I have starting capital that other feudal lords could only ever dream of having. Ultimate weapon of the family. Do not blame him for not sending gifts when you left. my father said softly. He is the pillar of the entire Snow Wolf clan. The nobles and the branch families watch his every single move. The slightest sign of favoritism could trigger absolute political chaos. His position demands absolute neutrality. He must be above it all. I nodded solemnly. Understand completely, father, and I did. My grandfather is not just strong, he is a peak epic tier knight at just over 100 years old. For someone of his level, that is the prime of life. Royalty and the powerful fear him because he could reach legendary rank at any second. If so, he would be the first legendary knight outside of royalty and the 5 founding dukes in the history of the kingdom. Such terrifying potential makes you the most closely watched, the most scrutinized and politically restricted person. Cannot send supportive gifts to his favorite grandson, not without the clan elders protesting or rivals misinterpreting the signs. Go on, get going, my father smiled. The carriage wheels ground against the cobblestone road. My heart was pounding. I had finally reached my territory, and that is where you and I leave it for today, armed with my precious scroll of 12 administrators, ready to rebuild my land. What do you think happens next? Come along with me to our next destination. I headed toward the Frost Moon Tower, my mother's magical sanctuary. The closer I got, the more the atmosphere shifted. A crisp chill, not like the harsh northern winds, but refreshing like a mountain spring. Ice magic saturated every single molecule. The glowing magic crystal door, decorated with stellar runes flowing across its surface, slid open on its own. It recognized me instantly as I approached because, of course, my mother's tower has family recognition built into its security. Inside was another world, warm air smelling of fresh flowers. Inside was massive compared to the exterior. Spatial expansion magic, obviously. Silver carpets and walls glowing like jade. The ceiling was pure liquid moonlight energy flowing, bathing everything in a dreamlike shimmer. Magical plants with frosty blue flowers bloomed in every corner. Dangerous ruined domain. Right as we entered the castle shadow, I heard a sudden ringing sound echoing, with petals dusted in sparkling frost. The sweet scent of winter plum drifted through the air. You and I can both agree this feels less like a magic tower and more like an ice goddess's spa. My mother descended. No flashy gowns, just a moon-white robe embroidered with silver stars and frozen flowers. Her face showed absolutely no age. Her deep eyes reflected decades of magic study. Silver hair cascaded over her shoulders with tiny ice crystals sparkling at the tips, radiated the immense power of a half-step great mage. A warm presence that was impossible to ignore. See how her icy gaze completely melted the moment she saw me, like frost turning to sunshine. Mother. I nearly ran to her, letting my guard down for once in this fortress of epic warriors and political schemes. In front of my mother, I was no lord, no strategist, nor a transmigrator managing a war economy. I was just her little boy. Old mechanical noise went off in my head as if someone had installed a computer directly into my brain. She stepped down and gently cupped my face. Fingers were cool. You have gotten thinner and more tanned. Not with worry, but her eyes brimmed with pride. The northern winds have not dulled your brilliance. Instead, you are stronger. Already felt my breakthrough to the black iron rank. Makes sense. Is a half-step great mage. She probably detected my changed aura before I even stepped inside her tower. I'm sorry for worrying you, mother. But with absolute sincerity. Not just out of politeness. Seriously, this woman gave me 200,000 gold coins, got Uncle Andre to send military support, and probably spent sleepless nights scanning the horizon with her magic, just to protect me. Father shows his love with brutal tests and heavy back slaps that almost dislocate your shoulder. Mother shows it in 1,000 warmer ways. Standing in her glowing tower, feeling her cool touch and the scent of flowers, I finally felt a warmth that you and I both know is priceless. Let's be real, you and I both want a place to call home. In seconds, I wasn't a lord or a soldier. Host meets all conditions. Title granted. Territory acquired. System activated. Full administrative permissions initiated immediately. Was a son missing his mother, though I also had to ask her for money. Ruined the vibe, but that was a problem for 5 minutes from now. She sat me in the coziest corner, complete with bare fur chairs and a tea table carved from freezing jade, drinking a tea that was definitely not normal. One sip and all my exhaustion completely vanished. It tasted like frozen plum with a magical warmth hitting my bones. Mage tea, do not ask how it works. It is just magic. Your father told me everything, Mother said, sliding the cup closer. Did wonderfully, wiping out threats and expanding your borders. Did not even ask about the 10 gold rank knights. She just gave me a knowing look that said I know everything, but I won't grill you. A half-step Grand Mage after all. She could scan my entire land if she wanted. What do you need, dear? And everything. Father manages the administrator's 12 trained people. Fletcher handles the food, but we are desperately short on staff. 0 talent. My father looked at me the way a boss looks at an intern who just broke the printer. Data pack 1 successfully delivered. Suddenly, all outside noise vanished, completely replaced by that mechanical voice in my head. I need laborers fast, and I don't have the connections to gather thousands of people on such short notice. Mother smiled with a look that said, I'll solve this before you even finish speaking. Leave it to me. And father just crushed a rebellion. Tons of prisoners and displaced refugees. Nowhere to put them. I will tell him to send 5,000 straight to Kanglin. They are a reliable workforce. No background checks needed. Moon Company merchant caravans will handle the transport. 5,000 free workers. Bowed so low my head almost touched my knees. An incredible ally we have, guys. You, Mother. Silly boy, sit down. She brushed me off like I was being dramatic, and honestly I was. Come along with me, because 5,000 free settlers deserve some drama. Mother is always your biggest supporter, no matter what. She took a sip of tea, watched the falling snow, and added something with a sweetness that hid razor-sharp blades. And is building an empire on the frontier. Least his mother can do is clear away a few obstacles. Now I have a system, a literal cheat code, game menu and a starter pack function. 2,000 servants who are barely worth the trouble. And right then was when I truly felt it. Beneath that sweet voice, the flowery tower, and the soft moonlight, my mother is a weapon. A massive trading company, leads a legendary magic tower, and can rearrange 5,000 human lives with just a flick of her finger and a telepathic message. Soft exterior is real, but so is the cold iron inside her. We talked for a long time after that. Me about everything, daily life, battles, the frontier, what I was eating, and if I was sleeping enough. Typical mom questions, the kind that make you feel like a kid again, no matter how many orcs you have killed. Sitting in that warm tower, drinking incredible tea, and hearing her sweet voice while it snowed outside, I relaxed completely. All the tension, the plans, and the constant vigilance of ruling a frontier territory. For an hour, I was just her son. The best moment I have had since I reincarnated. But pay close attention here, because leaving made everything heavy. I had to visit Grandfather Noel Windsor, the ultimate powerhouse. If being a lord with a private army and a war hero uncle wasn't enough, the universe just handed me admin privileges. The one my father, a proud knight, respects with deep reverence. There were no luxury bedroom. They were located in the most restricted area of Snowwolf Fortress, the Hall of the Ancestors itself. Get there, I walked down a long, silent hallway filled with portraits of dead Windsor heroes and their trophy weapons. The air grew heavier with every step. My black iron aura felt like a mere candle against a raging hurricane. Again, the massive door was made from a single slab of star meteorite iron, unadorned except for a deep claw mark as if something huge tried to tear it open, and a terrifying snow wolf carving. 2 guards flanked the door, wearing heavy armor with dark gold runes so dense they looked like walking black holes. Snowwolf Imperial Guard, our family's elite. They stared with icy eyes, confirmed my pass, and let me cross in silence. The door opened silently, releasing a wave of ancient air. Smelled of ancient times, like a cave sealed for centuries. And look at this. The ancestral hall was absolutely massive. Frozen wasteland has no idea what is coming. Stepping out, I went full boss mode. Ceilings so high they looked like the night sky, towering over a black basalt floor polished like a mirror. Blue magic crystals on the walls cast just enough light to make the entire place look like a moonlit glacier. The back, instead of a throne, was a massive rack of unknown black metal with dozens of weapons scattered carelessly. A cracked grey axe still radiating pure bloodlust, and a crystal greatsword glowing with an icy blue light, here wrapped in crimson lightning patterns, and an ancient tower shield scarred by 1,000 battles. Every single weapon vibrated with terrifying energy. Were legendary artifacts that surely ended wars and killed kings. Yet my grandfather left them there like old coats, no bedroom or study, sanctuary of violence history and the peak of military power built over 1,000 years. And somewhere in this hole, the strongest man in the entire Snowwolf dynasty was waiting for me. The seed of my iron aura was already trembling. Hands were soaked in sweat, not because I am some natural leader. Grandfather was on another level, a supreme knight of epic rank. He is over 100 years old, yet still in his prime. He is so powerful that the royal family loses sleep over him. Any day now, he could ascend to legendary status, a tier so rare, only founding dukes and royalty have ever reached it. And up, swallowed hard, and walked toward the back of the hall. It was time to meet the real boss of this family. There he was, standing with his back to a weapons rack that looked like a museum of trophies that killed legendary beasts. Grandfather Noel Windsor. I assure you, if my father's aura was a hurricane, my grandfather's was the vast ocean. No crashing waves, no dramatic storms, just an infinite and deep stillness, ancient, profound, and completely unfathomable. It wasn't even built large. Actually quite slender, wearing a grey linen robe washed 1,000 times with his white hair loose, standing like a statue. But just looking at his back made my soul want to crawl under a rock and hide. Me in my head, and I needed space to think, so let us go inside and see what happens next. It wasn't my father's crushing pressure, but something purer, trust me. It was like looking at the very concept of absolute power. All right, you and I are about to see a man who didn't even look human, but like a piece of the universe. Walking mountain, living, breathing history, a quiet apocalypse that decided not to happen. My black iron aura seed didn't tremble, it just surrendered, completely lifeless inside me, as if it were playing dead. Hoping the predator wouldn't notice. Grandfather. I forced the word through my tight throat, bowed deeply as formal etiquette demanded, and prayed my legs wouldn't collapse. Turned around. His face wasn't old at all. That was the strange part. A sharp jawline, healthy tan skin, barely any wrinkles. Less an elderly patriarch, more an immortal warrior fighting since before our nation even existed. At over 100 years old, he looked barely 50. Epic level longevity is absolutely no joke. But his eyes. Oh my God. Those eyes. It was like staring into a void in reality. That's exactly what they were. Deep as the end of the universe. Still ice-frozen solid since the very beginning of time. Let's dive into how our main character orders the town's defense and sends 5 squads to fetch highly detailed maps. Yet they held the power to tear the skies apart and melt entire mountains. When those eyes locked onto me, I felt everything I had ever been. Every single thought, secret, and hidden system panel was analyzed, catalogued, and filed away in half a second. Never seen someone feel so utterly exposed across 2 entire lifetimes. His voice wasn't loud but calm, yet every syllable vibrated through my soul like a tuning fork forged from the law itself. You went to the border. Not a question, but a statement. He already knew. Yes, grandfather. I'm developing the Kanglin domain. Kanglin domain. He repeated it as if weighing a heavy stone. Frozen wasteland. Monsters everywhere. Trolls, orcs, goblins, and worse. Sleeping. You killed the trolls. You wiped out the orc tribe. Your statements, neither impressed nor angry. He was just stating facts with the enthusiasm of someone reading a simple grocery list. Using a power that suddenly appeared. A shiver ran down my spine. His gaze pierced straight through my body and brain. I swear he stared directly at the system. An invisible panel floating in my consciousness that only I am supposed to see. They must report back by sunset, after all. I am now a generous lord swimming in free gold. For one terrifying second, I was completely sure this man could actually see it. Yet he didn't ask or press, simply looking away as if my greatest secret were just a minor, trivial curiosity. Power is power. Used well, it is righteous. Used poorly, it is evil. You can control it. Use it to expand our territory and protect your own. My heart pounded wildly. He knows there is something strange about me, and he's choosing to let it go. Not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't need to care. Level, my secrets are about as dangerous as a hamster holding a tiny knife. Suddenly, his voice dropped 10 degrees. Developing the frontier is no game. Every single word hit like a frozen brick. Gold rank is merely the entrance, insignificant pest. Because those ancient eyes locked right back onto me. Your foundations are shallow. Your strength is laughable. Your victory today is a candle in a storm. Do not let minor gains blind you. And do not die so soon. Every scout gets an extra gold coin tonight, while the rest receive 10 silver deers. Quick math. No praise, no pat on the back. just a bucket of freezing water dumped over every ounce of confidence I built this past month. Gold rank artifacts I was so proud of were nothing more than pests to him. My territorial victories, gains, advancement to Black Iron didn't even deserve a mention before a supreme epic knight who could defeat armies alone. All my hard work was nothing but a child's simple scribble, and yet beneath all that freezing contempt, faint as a heartbeat beneath the snow, wasn't warmth, but there was a clear interest in me. Not die so soon. That wasn't a simple warning, but the command of a man who never wastes words on the insignificant, wouldn't have bothered telling me to survive if he had already given up on me. That phrase, cold, brutal, and completely devoid of comfort, was my grandfather's way of saying, I am watching you, and I expect you to become someone. I will remember your teachings, grandfather. I bowed again, deeper this time with absolute sincerity, stared right at me. Those bottomless eyes blinked just once, so fast I barely noticed there was something more. 1 gold coin can sustain a farming family for a whole year. Threw away entire salaries like nothing. Recognition, approval, a tiny fraction less indifference. And he turned around. His weapons, to the silence, to being eternity pretending to be a piece of furniture. Audience was over. I slowly retreated, step by step, eyes downcast, never looking back until I crossed the threshold. The meteorite iron door shut tight behind me. I collapsed right against the hallway wall, completely drenched in cold sweat. The racing heart and legs like paper, I stood there panting for a full minute, staring at the ceiling, processing everything. And that's where we leave it. My father was terrifying, but my grandfather is a supreme epic knight, a living legend. All right, you and I are jumping right into a brutal encounter that made our main character feel completely invisible, delivering the coldest motivational speech ever. Everything you did means absolutely nothing. Everything you fought for is worthless. Real dangers are still out there. Strong or die. Inspiring. Nightmares about that glare for a month. But the old man is right. Watch closely here. I planned the perfect escape. Outside, the soldiers cheered as if Christmas had arrived forever, while my carriage slowly passed through the castle gates. Gold rank artifacts seem invincible in my tiny border territory. Globally, they are just average. The system troop trees go much higher than this. One level needs to rise way faster. With whatever is lurking in the deep north, that thing my grandfather called not yet awakened. I have to be ready. Clench my fists as the fire in my chest burns hotter than ever before. The rise of the Kanglan domain has not even begun. Now I have a goal far beyond just building an empire. I will get so strong that next time we meet, my grandfather looks at me with something more than pure indifference. Accepted. A month in the Snow Wolf territory. I am moving like a man possessed, speedrunning every single task. First target, administrators. Old John, the chief butler, had 12 people ready, exactly as my father promised. You and I have to appreciate this lineup. Eager young academy graduates alongside battle-hardened bureaucrats who survived years of government paperwork. Youth had ambition. Veterans radiated energy of seeing entire tax systems collapse. A perfect combination. Spoke briefly, avoiding long speeches or dramatic monologues. The wheels creaked over the frozen gravel as everything around looked incredibly worn down and gloomy. No motivational fluff. This is the Kanglan domain. Here is what I need, and you depart today. And since I have no intention of letting wolves eat my valuable accountants for dinner on the road, gave these 12 brainiacs a ridiculous escort, 2 gold rank artifacts and 20 bronze rank riders. Enough military power to conquer a small barony. Yet I am using it to guard accountants. They crossed the city gates. 2 shining golden warrior gods led armored knights to protect a group of deeply confused bureaucrats. People just stared, watched from the wall until they disappeared down the north road, feeling a massive wave of relief. No more irrigation disputes cluttering my desk. Finally, second objective, food. Straight to the merchant headquarters of my third brother Fletcher. The place was absolutely chaotic. Took up an entire commercial district, packed with endless warehouses and grain carts moving around like ants, smelled of dry wheat and pure money. Fletcher gave me a massive bear hug the second I walked in, almost breaking my spine, to rush to my room and examine that mysterious system interface. Little 5, I heard you have been busy up north, slaying trolls and wiping out orcs. That is my brother. He dragged me into his office, a room buried under trade maps and registers, getting straight to the point. How much food do you need? 30,000 people. 6 months of rations of the hardiest, highest calorie grain you have, plus salt and horse feed. Fletcher raised his eyebrows. 30,000 for 6 months, you greedy kid. And he smiled wider than ever and said, I love it. You are going big. We'll give you fresh northern black rye, frost oats, and high-altitude chickpeas, perfect fuel to survive extreme cold. Best mineral salt, soy cakes, and dry alfalfa for horses. Now you and I need to pay attention, because here comes the real bombshell, Little Five. I'm opening a Frostwolf Company branch in your town of Kangland. My brain short-circuited. From now on, grain, salt, iron clothes, whatever you need. Go to the branch and take it. The price. Leaned in with the smile of a man who is about to change your life at cost price. Family does not profit off family. Credit and pay me back once your territory prospers. Yes, wholesale cost. But that plan lasted barely 3 seconds as the 10 knights in the courtyard suddenly moved in perfect unison. Standard price of grain in the north is 6 to 8 gold coins per ton. Fletcher offered was basic production and shipping cost, about 2 to 4 gold per ton. He cut my food expenses in half with open credit. No simple discount. It was an economic lifeline, a permanent supply chain at prices that would make other feudal lords weep with envy. Brother, I do not know how. Shut up and just succeed already. Delivered a heavy slap to my back that would definitely leave a mark. Grow that territory. Further your roads go, the further my trade routes advance. We both win. The guy is a genius. He is not just helping out his little brother. He is investing in a future trade corridor into unexplored northern territory. Brilliant business mind mixed with genuine brotherly love. Fletcher might actually be the most terrifying Windsor of all. Within days, a massive caravan loaded with grain, salt, and feed departed under heavy guard. Watching that convoy stretch out toward the horizon, something I hadn't experienced in weeks' safety. My people wouldn't starve. That alone made this whole trip worth it. Their heavy armor gleamed under the snow. Without a word, 10 figures marched toward my carriage and knelt like synchronized thunder. Third task, population. And trust me, while I was running through town, my mother was already executing her master plan. Come along with me and watch how she sends a magic message straight to the Frost Crow Grand Duke. Simple, clear, and impossible to refuse. Your grandson needs workers, and you just ended a war. Tons of prisoners with nowhere to go. Send them. The Grand Duke, leader of the kingdom's most feared army, who makes strong men tremble just by clearing his throat, listened to his talented daughter and agreed immediately. His even terrifying warlords have a soft spot for their own children. The military machine shifted from active combat to logistics in just a few days. 5,000 people captured enemies, refugees, and workers marched in columns, escorted by the elite Grey Falcon infantry. Each column was assigned guides and medics for the long trek across the frozen wasteland. Center, a magically heated carriage carried the envoy bearing Mother's personal Frost Moon crest. Frost Knight Order, 1st Battalion, a magical crest that basically warned, these people belong to my son. Touch them, and my half-step Mago's daughter will freeze your entire bloodline. This grey river of 5,000 people stretched out for miles, marching north under the Frost Crow banners. Down at the base, Martin had already received Mother's warning. He was fully prepared, clearing land, building emergency shelters, and stocking up on food and firewood. Now watch the horizon. Column appears, and everyone celebrates that Lady Windsor's reinforcements finally arrived. Martin's guards lined up at the camp entrance, fully armored, disciplined, and incredibly imposing. Not to threaten them, but to show that there is order, strength, and that they are finally safe. Envoy stepped down, handed over the Frost Moon crest, and finalized the transfer. Martin accepted it respectfully. 5,000 pairs of hands ready to dig mines, clear fields, build walls, and harvest crops. The newcomers entered exhausted and terrified, but the soldiers processed them firmly and fairly. 3rd Company, 7th Squad, reporting. Greetings to Lord Ron. And froze on the door, it is the legendary Frost Knight Order. They counted them, assigned shelters, and best of all, gave them a hot bowl of thick meat soup. Bet you and I felt that same massive relief. Shivering people hold that warm bowl and realize with the first sip that this lord is not a monster. Maybe we will survive. 5,000 new citizens brought through the frozen wastes by Mother's invisible influence, all organized by the Duke's army, received by Martin, and funded by family love and mutual self-interest. The results of the trip, 12 elite administrators on the way and 6 months of food for 30,000 people. Permanent supply chain established through the Fletcher Trading Company. 5,000 settlers arrived, and I got Father's approval. Mother's full support is locked in, and Grandfather grandfather's terrifying warning is carved into my soul. I'm home as a lord begging for help, and I leave with everything I need. Phase 2 of Kanglen starts now. To explain my sudden mental shock, my grandfather, the Grand Duke of the Frost Crow, commands 5 elite knight orders. The night before leaving, I stood by my bedroom window, staring out toward the north of Kanglen. In my hand, I held a black jade amulet, my mother's parting gift. Frost Moon amulet carried defensive magic and her magical signature, essentially a panic button saying, "My mother is a half-step Magus Lord, and she will find you." Others are truly one of a kind, even in fantasy worlds. Lane, helmetless for once, showed a young face that looked like it had aged 5 years from recent combat. "Everything is ready, my lord. Supplies are loaded and horses are prepped. Martin reports the 5,000 settlers arrived safely." Excellent. Staring north, then asked a question I probably should have kept to myself. "Think we have done enough? Does what we built actually matter?" He went silent, then replied, "My lord, we killed gold rank bosses, cleared the land, built an army, and secured elite administrators with 6 months of grain. Order of the Flying Tiger Knights is much stronger than before, and the Frost Knights are one of them, easily matching the 3 strongest orders of my father's house. The Snow Wolf territory, Kangland is no longer a hopeless frontier experiment. It is a sharp sword that has barely shown its edge," I whispered. Turned around, looked at Lane, then glanced deep inside the castle, where the magic barriers grew dense and the air itself felt heavy. The Hall of Ancestors waited like a sleeping dragon. Lane followed my gaze, and I noticed his subtle nod. "You are going to see him again," he said. It was not a question. Yes, Lane felt grandfather's aura on our last visit, and that is where we leave it. Imagine feeling pressure so heavy a gold-rank knight feels triple gravity. Come with me to see this. He knew what I was up against. "There are mountains we must climb," I said, squeezing the amulet. The cold jade pressed against my skin. "There are gazes you must hold." Lane didn't argue, nor did he ask why. Just struck his armor with his fist. Boom. And said, "I will escort you, my lord." That is just how Lane acts. He doesn't waste time questioning choices he cannot change. Make sure he is by your side when things get ugly. You might be thinking this is no big deal, just because the Snow Wolves have something similar. Walk down the same long hallway. The exact same portraits of dead Windsor legends staring down at us from the walls. The same suffocating pressure that made my black iron aura seed shrink and tremble deep inside. Lane walked right behind me, and I felt his aura tighten. Gold rank knight, capable of wiping out an entire orc army alone, shaking from the residual energy seeping through the walls. That is the level we are facing. Snow Wolf Imperial Guards at the Meteorite Gate were exactly as I remembered them. Dark gold runic armor, auras like black holes, and cold faces carved in stone. Instantly onto me. It was a routine check, but they paused on Lane. Last time, he was already strong. But now, after weeks of war and dozens of kills, his aura was much denser and sharper. Guards noticed it immediately. Any change stands out, but an upgraded gold rank is still a mere firefly compared to the sun roaring behind that door. They let us through. Door opened soundlessly. Ancient air rushed out along with the overwhelming pressure. My coming-of-age ceremony, I asked to colonize a frozen wasteland on the border. Sounds awful, meaning it is perfect. Let me put this in perspective. Only 5 founding ducal families exist in this kingdom. They are the true rulers. Now pay attention here. That pressure hit us like a tidal wave of pure killing intent. Last time I was just curious. This time I had a clear purpose. I had results to show. Eliminated enemies, a new army, real progress, solved crises, and a doubled population. Yet, standing at the threshold of that dark hall, watching the faint blue light reflect off dozens of legendary weapons lined up on their racks, and feeling my very soul shrink before the sheer presence of a supreme knight, all my achievements felt tiny again. Somewhere in that darkness waited my grandfather, a man who viewed gold-rank enemies as nothing more than annoying pests, a man whose silence weighed heavier than anyone's screams, someone who warned me not to die too soon. As if he were talking about the weather. I took a deep breath, squeezed the jade amulet, and stepped inside. Because this is what I learned in my first month as a border lord. Comfort zones will kill all ambition. Only way to grow is to stand before whatever terrifies you most and refuse to look away. Beneath them, you need royal blood or immense power to be a marquis, technically just earls. You and I both know my grandfather is the scariest thing alive. which is exactly why I need this. The door opened. The abyss-like air whipped against us, and two against grandfather. Lane took a step behind me and almost collapsed. All right, you and I are watching a legendary gold rank aura. Something that scares off monster armies tremble like a leaf. Sweat poured down his face. He clenched his jaw so hard you could practically hear his teeth grinding. Gold rank knight, struggling to even stand just by being there. And this wasn't even targeted pressure, just his passive presence radiating like a magical nuclear reactor. To be honest, I was doing better. Mom's amulet sent fresh energy to my hand, stabilizing my power seed. Still felt like breathing underwater, but at least my legs were actually moving. My grandfather turned. Those unreal eyes, like dying galaxies, scanned me first before locking onto Lane. In gold rank, my grandfather said, his voice shaking Lane's soul like an earthquake. His foundation is acceptable. We are the only earls in 1,000 years of history to sit with the dukes and the crown. It is an honor, sir. Lane managed to choke out, while every atom of his being screamed for mercy. And grandfather did something unexpected. He let out a low, mysterious chuckle that could mean amusement or a death sentence. Do not know why you serve my grandson. Do not care where you come from. His gaze pinned Lane like an insect. As long as you are loyal to my blood, to this wolf pup who left his den, your past does not interest me. Suddenly, the temperature drops below zero. Watch closely. Instantly, as if an entire mountain had just dropped onto his shoulders. He collapsed to his knees on the black obsidian floor. Sweat poured like rain, his bones creaked audibly, and his gold aura flickered weakly. If I find out you have even the slightest intention of betraying this family or this pup. My grandfather leaned in. Those ancient eyes suddenly reflected 1,000 shattered battlefields and an entire millennium of merciless slaughter. Intent so thick it felt physical began to radiate from him. 5 counties under our banner. We are basically dukes who never bothered to update our business cards. The brutal killing legacy of Windsor. You ready for more? Come along with me to see how the snow wolf's fangs tear fools apart. Their screams still echo in the wind. You wouldn't want to be next, right? Looked at Lane, my strongest gold rank warrior, capable of taking down orc bosses in 15 seconds, kneeling and drenched in sweat, nearly passed out and threatened by a man who could erase him with a single thought. Grandfather. I stepped forward, physically blocking that wave of pressure from Lane. My voice sounded sharp, but completely steady. In his knights are my most loyal arms, proved themselves in blood. Trust your grandson's judgment. Grandfather's eyes locked onto me. That icy gaze wavered for a barely perceptible fraction of a second. Suddenly the pressure vanished as if it had never existed. Straightened up, completely ignoring the gasping knight on the floor, and walked toward his ice jade throne. So when I say the Frost Knights match our top 3 orders, the bar is set incredibly high. Watch closely, because this old lion could destroy 50 miles in any direction with a single bad sneeze. Ever since your great-uncle led the Frostfang Knights west to found his county, grandfather began like spinning a legend. No wolf family hasn't seen a pup strike out on his own in 100 years. Stared right at me with eyes carrying entire centuries. History of the Windsors was written by pioneers. From our first blizzard outpost, 7 of us expanded the borders. 1 died in the wilderness. Another returned broken. Of the 5 who succeeded, 1 became a viscount. The other 4 ended up as counts, he said sharply. Our glory was never built by hiding behind inherited walls. It was forged by pushing outward like wolves, always cooperating and hunting as a pack. On the inside, we may argue and compete, but our claws never harm the bones of our own pack. But if an outsider dares to covet what is ours or harm anyone of our blood, that is the standard. That is how terrifying these people are. The minimum entry requirement, the lowest step, no wolf's response falls like an unstoppable Arctic blizzard, relentless until it claims its price in bone and blood. Grandfather looked at me again, searching, but with something hidden. It wasn't warmth, but pure recognition. You, Ron Windsor, lit the first bonfire in the frozen lands in 1 month. You proved this wasn't just some whim, makings of a pioneer. And then he dropped the real bombshell. Bet you and I felt that same epic rush. First he raised a single finger. The family will assign a permanent Earth Knight to the Kanglan domain. Guardian and family representative, experienced, loyal, and capable of securing your rear against any threat. Alright, you and I are starting with an Earth Knight, level 7 tier above gold. A total 1-man army. Into me forever. Second finger. Once you build enough infrastructure, cities, and farmlands, The family will start a steady, organized migration of settlers from our territory to your domain. For a common soldier is silver rank. It is 3 whole tiers above my pathetic squire rank. Squad leader, the first wave, at least 2,000 households. Households of 4 to 5 people each. That adds up to 8 to 10,000 citizens. And boost that will nearly double my workforce. Grandfather noticed my excitement and pay attention to how cold he gets. Comparing this to my granduncle who had 1,000 elite knights, this support is actually quite modest. Be humble. Understand, Ron, your granduncle was already an eagle soaring above the clouds. You are just a cub leaving the den with nothing but baby teeth. Get the maximum support justified by what you've proven. Translation, if you show more, you get more. An investment, not a gift. We expect results. I understand completely, grandfather. I bowed so low I almost saw my boots. I won't disappoint you. Trust me, his calculations were crystal clear. Rise from Baron to Viscount in this world, you need at least 1 Earth Knight, one is gold, and a battalion commander is an Earth Knight capable of shaking mountains. 5 gold knights and 100 bronze riders. I already had the gold ones, and the bronze grew. And now grandfather was handing me the most expensive, hardest to get piece of the puzzle. A single piece changed everything. An Earth Knight doesn't just fight, he stabilizes the territory. His very presence makes any rival neighbor hesitate. It is the difference between a simple border outpost and a rising power. Lane was still kneeling behind me, slowly catching his breath. I would apologize to him later, maybe buying him 10 drinks. You and I both know the best is yet to come, because walking out, I felt my entire destiny shift. Not just excitement or gratitude, it is purpose. 7 Windsors walked the path of pioneers. 5 succeeded, 2 failed, and the man leading the entire order must be a Sky Knight. A warrior capable of flying, and get this, the man commanding this terrifying army is actually my Uncle Andre. Awful means no fights or political betrayals, just me, the extreme cold, and my beloved freedom. Let me be brutally honest about my place in the power hierarchy. I am only 16. I've trained my entire life, yet after all that effort I barely reached peak squire, level 1. And even hit black iron level 2, which my 3rd brother achieved with almost 0 training. I am quite literally the weakest person in my entire family, the absolute bottom of the dynasty. My 4 brothers, Carlos is a born commander, Vincent is a beast in the cavalry, Leon is a grand mage, and even Fletcher the merchant outmatches me. I'm the one they send to count supplies during battle. Yet 10 silver-ranked knights, full of wiping out me and my bronze guard, without sweating, knelt as if before their king. All because of my surname, the Windsor blood, merging with the Augustus line. And when these 2 dynasties collide, it feels like the universe hands you an invincible military cheat code. Before reaching the family hall, my brothers ambushed me in the hallway like some surprise party I never wanted. Stood there on the icy stones, staring down at 10 highly lethal silver statues kneeling at my feet. The very first time, I truly understood what it means to inherit unearned power. Rise, I told them, pretending I deserved all this. I did not, but they stood up anyway. And inside my mind, the system window kept flashing, waiting to deliver my starter pack. What a day. Now let me explain why those 10 silver knights knelt before me. It is actually quite sweet for someone belonging to such a terrifying military dynasty. I'm Uncle Andre's youngest nephew, the literal baby of this entire overwhelming family crossover. A man who commands the deadliest force in the north has a soft spot for his little nephew. Maybe he projects his frustrated paternal instincts onto me, I do not know, but I am not complaining. The man literally sends me silver knights as babysitters. Others get nannies, I get a lethal hit squad. Their ultimate loyalty is not directed at me personally, but rather at what I represent. Carlos slapped my shoulder so hard I almost ate the carpet. Little brother, I love your initiative, he said. Union of 2 legendary bloodlines in a 16-year-old, and trust me, you need to see what comes next. Join me as we watch this guy turn into a true leader, standing in that frozen courtyard, watching warriors who could snap me like a twig. Kneel before me, something changed deep inside. I'm no longer that pathetic 5th son hiding in some dark corner. The royal blood in my veins actually means something here. It is both terrifying and thrilling, and I want to deserve it someday. First things first, did my uncle send them? I asked, looking at their leader. The knight stepped forward, striking his breastplate with a loud clang, moving with flawless precision. Lord, Commander Andre ordered us to secure this position until his arrival. From this moment, I, Martin Thorne, and my squad are your sword and shield. Command whatever you wish. We will follow you to the death. I repeated that name in my mind. My uncle's first gift of actual power, a name I fully planned to remember. And then, right as Martin finished speaking, my system suddenly roared to life once again, and then he dropped a chest with 10,000 gold coins right at my feet. Bold text flashed directly inside my brain, like someone was writing behind my eyes. New allied unit detected. Silver rank knight, Martin Thorn. Strength silver knight, max level. Class frost knight. Specialty ice combat and extreme warfare. Loyalty is at 85. Stable built on Andre Augustus's authority. He gets 85 points from his uncle's orders and knightly code. Not because he likes me personally, we literally just met, but purely because his boss ordered him to protect me. Interesting pay, close attention to what he just discovered. This system is not just some gift dispenser. It is a people scanner, measuring loyalty like a thermometer measures temperature. No guesswork. No more wondering if he respects me or plans to sell me to the orcs. Just cold, hard numbers. This changes everything. Time for my first big move. I stood tall, gathered all the lordly energy I could fake, and projected my voice across the courtyard. Martin Thorn, guardian of Kangland Fortress, will hold absolute authority over the defense, troop deployment, and security patrols. The room smelled like expensive wood and old leather. Basically, it reeked of rich people. It almost crushed my toes. Plus 3,000 farming serfs and 100 infantry soldiers, like he was giving me candy. Fortifications, guard training, town safety, everything. I only have one requirement: this place must become absolutely unbreakable. I risked everything by granting absolute authority, handing over the keys to the entire castle. A bold play since I just arrived. Completely reckless maybe, but I had the real numbers on my side. Martin snapped his head up in shock. Weathered face, scarred by freezing storms and orc axes alike, showed genuine surprise. Then came the fire as his eyes lit up. His voice was actually trembling, not from weakness, but from pure, intense emotion. I, Martin Thorn, swear to defend Kangland Fortress to the death. As long as I stand, this castle holds. If it falls, I fall with it. My life is yours. And his fist against his breastplate boom. The 9 knights behind him roared in unison. Our lives for the Lord. Did you see that? Right then, the cold mechanical system chimed again. Loyalty increase confirmed. Martin Thorn jumped from 85 to 90 in under 30 seconds. Just because I gave him actual responsibility, that number hit me like a brutal revelation. This sacred oath was not just dramatic acting. It was completely real. Before I could pick my jaw up off the floor, my second brother Vincent appeared, cold as ice, gifting me 100 fully equipped cavalrymen and 10 bronze-ranked knights. 20% real. Him confirmed he meant every single word. His burning promise matched the cold, digital numbers perfectly, and proven by data. In that exact instant, I truly understood what I held. Him does not just show stats. Me who is real, turning my intuition into pure science. In a world of scheming nobles and hidden daggers, I now have a built-in lie detector. Martin Thorn went from a borrowed soldier to my first great pillar in a heartbeat. Very first brick of the empire I am going to build on this frozen wasteland. And the shame of being a weak 5th son all crumbled to dust under Martin's unbreakable, fierce loyalty. First Major's decision as Lord, handing this man the keys to my entire stronghold, validated by a cheat code from fate itself. I think I am going to love this system. I closed my study door. Dusty bookshelves, dim light filtering through narrow windows. My heart beat like a war drum. System whispered it into the void of my mind, like a madman talking to some imaginary friend, and answered instantly. They only obey you now, he said with the calm of someone lending you the television remote. Boom, cold, mechanical, with zero personality. 2 massive metal plates clashing in deep space. Blue text burned directly into my consciousness. Command recognized. Summoning system core. Identity confirmed. Ron Windsor. Connection active. Can you introduce yourself? Look, I read thousands of isekai web novels in my past life. I know exactly how these systems operate, but when one actually appears in your head, you are left completely speechless. Name Imperial War System. Objective: rapidly accelerate user power and territory. Ultimate goal: build an empire. Comes next is absolutely going to blow our minds. Come along with me and watch how everything completely upgrades with 2 insane newly unlocked system features. Basically, I can spend gold to transform normal soldiers into standard troops from the old Cadell Empire military. Instant gear, earn experience through battles or training, and level up over over time. I almost bite my tongue from pure excitement just looking at the names and upgrade paths. Then came the third brother, Fletcher, the grain tycoon. The entire military tree is from Mountain Blade to Bannerlord, the Karatic Empire faction, from my favorite video game in my past life. The universe reincarnated me into a fantasy world and gave me a cheat system based on the PC game I was addicted to. So what are the options? Here is the exact breakdown of what I can convert right now. My 13,000 civilians can become low-level Imperial recruits, but my 100 Black Iron soldiers will be Royal Imperial Infantry, 100 Black Iron Riders upgrade to Imperial Guard, and my 10 Bronze Knights rise to Citizen Cavalry. And my 10 Frost Knights will transform into Elite Imperial Heavy Cavalry. Civilians can reach Gold rank with enough experience, and the Noble Cavalry can climb to land Knight level. And if any individual soldier hits their limit but has enough talent, the system triggers a special evolution, pushing past their limits into rare hero class units while keeping all their gear. Here is where it gets crazy. System gear is just the base, and anyone can upgrade it later if they want. A walking supermarket who promised to give me enough food for 10,000 people for an entire year. Rice, beans, dried meat, and more. You won't believe this, but my hands were literally shaking. In the game, these troops were the absolute endgame. Here, they are just the starting line and can exceed game limits. Wait system. Open the starter pack. The beginner guide pack now. Content successfully delivered 10 Imperial Cataphracts, 10 armored heavy cavalry units at gold rank, complete with horse armor, lances, heavy plates, shields, and gold-level sabers. 10,000 denarii translated directly to 10,000 gold dragons in this world. Another 10,000 extra gold, 10,000 free universal experience points, and 10,000 Cadell peasants. 10,000 extra people to add to my territory's population instant labor force. Literally stopped breathing. 10 gold rank knights from Uncle Andre's legendary Frost Order, where a single knight of that rank leads 100 riders as captain. Every single one of these cataphracts could easily be the most prized champion of any warlord. And I got 10 for free just for showing up. Rubbed my face so hard I almost tore my skin. Was shaking. Anything is missing, let me know. Warehouses are huge, he said, smiling like a Santa running a giant logistics empire. How do I summon them? Summoning opens a temporary dimensional rift, and the target location must be within 1,000 meters. They physically appear with a slight spatial disturbance. Ensure privacy. Got it. Do not summon heavy cavalry in the middle of town. Now you and I both know you'd be dying to ask my next question. What about the other factions? Can I unlock legendary Batanian archers, Aserai horse archers, or Sturgeon berserkers? Multi-faction unlock conditions significantly expand your territory and elevate your noble rank. Conquer or ally with other cultural regions. The more you expand, the wider your troop trees become. In territory, climb the ranks and conquer lands. In exchange, the system unlocks more technology, troop types, and paths to power. I couldn't hold back anymore. Villain laugh echoing through the dusty library of this old castle. Totally unhinged. Zero regrets. It isn't just a cheat, it is a guide to expand, conquer, unlock, and build my empire. Bet you are losing your mind just like me, right when the fourth brother floated in like a ghost in robes, and basically just handed me the manual to world domination and said good luck. 10 gold cataphracts ready, and 10,000 new citizens waiting to be deployed. An enviable military treasure, a loyalty scanner in my mind, and the entire military tree of my favorite game made real. I'm here planning to survive, but now I plan to rule. All right, deep breath. Laughing time is over. Time to act like a lord. First, bring those cataphracts and 10,000 peasants to reality. Focused on the snowy field 900 meters from the castle gate and gave the mental order. Summon 10 imperial cataphracts and 10,000 Cadil peasants to the field in front of the entrance. Coordinates set in seconds with spatial disturbance shield active. Brilliant. Meanwhile, Martin opens the door so fast he was definitely eavesdropping in full armor, fist to chest, instant salute. Master, I await your orders. First, do not call me Master. I am 16, and it makes me feel like a sick old man. In glowing runes and zero warmth. He handed me a glass box with 100 bottles of rare healing potions. Call me Lord. 50 cavalry out the gate, and let's go see together what happens next. Come along with me for this. You are going to find 10 knights in dark gold armor leading 10,000 civilians here. Welcome them with the highest honors and escort them to the town. No questions and no sour sour faces. They are my direct troops, and the very first wave of our brand new citizens. Martin's brain completely short-circuited. Mysterious nights and 10,000 people just appearing out of nowhere in this frozen wasteland. But you have to admit he is a total professional. Soldiers do not ask why, they ask how fast. Understood. Executing immediately. Fist to the chest and he was gone in a flash. Boots echoed down the hallway as he shouted orders. We are receiving guests right now. This was what was happening outside while I was in my study, pretending to keep absolutely calm. In the watchtower, a poor guard shivered from the cold, probably dreaming of a hot bowl of soup. Suddenly, he looked at the empty field as a sacred light 900 meters away shattered like a window, space itself bent, something so expensive it would ruin any lesser noble. Act showed a flash of impossible darkness and slammed 10 silhouettes onto the frozen earth so hard the vibration shook the castle walls. 10 riders, each one a walking apocalypse. Watch closely, because this is pure madness. They wore dark gold armor so thick it could stop cannonballs, with massive table-sized pauldrons. Their helmets looked like snarling wolves, with glowing icy blue slits scanning the castle like predators hunting down their prey. Spears over 3 meters long with lethal destructive tips. War horses were completely armored too, gigantic beasts exhaling clouds of steam, their heavy hooves carving deep craters into the frozen ground with every single step. In them a human tide. 1,000 simply dressed people carrying bundles across a kilometer appeared out of nowhere. The most dramatic magic trick ever. Every soldier on the walls froze in place, not from the cold, but from sheer terror. The captain later admitted the pressure from those 10 riders felt worse than the gold-rank commander at the Wolf Fortress. "If you run out, let me know," he said, emotionless. "Thanks, brother. Super warm support, even if I am freezing here." And that guy could crush Black Iron soldiers with a single stomp. These knights did not even move, just waiting in absolute silence, leaving the entire garrison shaking like leaves. Finally, someone remembered they had a job. The alarm horn blared across the castle. Full alert, unknown knights below. State your purpose. The largest knight, a mountain of golden metal with an old scar on his helmet, nudged his nightmare steed forward. Voice boomed from within his helmet, like the deafening sound of iron clashing against iron. "My name is Lena Starders. Serve Lord Ron Windsor, the Imperial Guard. Master's will. We escort these settlers to their new home. I know what you are thinking." The captain froze his mind, going completely blank. One specific name cleared his mind instantly. Ron Windsor, and new lord of them all. The kid who arrived in a golden carriage just 3 hours ago suddenly has a private army of golden giants. Find Martin. Bring the lord. Let someone else handle this because I cannot. And dare open the gates. Which is totally understandable. 10 years ago, some sketchy fortune teller told me to go out on a specific day to win the lottery. Like an idiot, I believed him. Stood there paralyzed, my brain totally melted, holding a fortune in potions next to a chest of gold and an entire gifted army. When gods of war showed up at my doorstep, claiming to work for my boss, I would want a superior to handle it too. Meanwhile, I was upstairs in my study, trying my absolute hardest to hold back my laughter. I was not there to see it in person, but I heard about it later and seriously wished I had popcorn. Martin rode out with 50 Black Iron riders, keeping a steady pace and ready for anything, until he saw them. 50 horses skidded to a stop so fast they almost left marks on the snow. His warhorse, trained to fight orcs, was shaking with fear. His 50 elite riders fell completely silent, and it was not because of military discipline. More like, if I don't breathe, maybe those golden monsters won't see me. And honestly, I get them, because this was what stood before them. 10 terrifying knights. Each was like a small gold building mounted on an even larger armored horse. Armor so ridiculously thick, it looked like they melted down an entire gold mine. Wolf-shaped helmets with glowing blue eyes, ready to suffer in the frozen wasteland like some medieval survival specialist. 3-meter spears pointing at the sky in defiant warning. Their war horses looked like small elephants breathing steam, tearing up the frozen ground. And there they stood, looking terrifying just for the fun of it. Martin, being an absolute legend, completely ignored the screaming panic of his survival instinct, riding forward alone until he was 20 paces from those golden nightmares, giving the most professional salute possible, while your internal organs are trying to escape through your throat. Greetings, great knights. Thorn, sent by Lord Ron Windsor to welcome your leader. And trust me, the best is yet to come. Come with me as we meet Leninardis, the towering, battle-scared warrior. Stare down Martin with piercing blue eyes, like a dragon sizing up whether its prey was food or just a toy. The silence stretched on like 17,000 years until Lane finally nodded, raising his armored fist to his chest. Boom echoed like a cannon in a cathedral, and immediately the 9 warriors behind him copied the gesture in sync. My brothers just gifted me the resources of a small kingdom. 9 deafening clangs of metal on metal rang out, sounding like thunder crashing across the sky. Wave terrified the horses, sending them rearing back, while the wall guards nearly died of sheer fright. The roar swept across the frozen wasteland like an angry drum. Fearsome Imperial Living Artifact Guard. Captain Leninardis, acting under Ron Windsor's orders, was escorting 10,000 settlers toward the Kanglan territory. Mission delivery complete. Every word struck like a heavy hammer, leaving Martin absolutely stunned by what he was seeing. These beasts were not temporary. They belonged to him now. 18-year-old lord, who could not even reach black iron rank, commanded 10 gold-tier killing machines capable of crushing any baron's entire territory in the blink of an eye, and kept his cool. Welcome, Captain Lane. Our young lord is eagerly waiting for you inside. Please follow me. He then spun toward the castle and let out the loudest shout anyone had ever heard. Open the gates. Welcome our people. The captain up on the wall simply could not believe his ears. Not suffering on the frontier, it is a heavily armed luxury vacation. The man, practically on the verge of a heart attack, scrambled to the controls, tripping over himself to raise the heavy gates immediately. Watch closely now as those massive iron gates begin to open. 10 golden riders of the apocalypse marched across the threshold, silent as ghosts, followed by a human river of 10,000 civilians, rode out to guide the settlers. They did their duty, sure, but they could not help staring in absolute terror at those mechanical colossi passing right beside them. The pressure radiating from those 10 riders was impossible to ignore. It was like standing next to an active volcano while pretending to be calm. Martin watched the entire procession from the entrance, frozen on his horse, and I swear his face was a perfect mix of total awe and a deep existential crisis. Down in his mind, a single question kept playing on repeat. What on earth did our young lord bring back to this place? The Kanglan territory is about to change forever. Meanwhile, behind closed doors in my office, I pretended to read boring reports while shaking with pure excitement and joy. Suddenly, heavy footsteps made the ground shake. A massive figure stomped down the hallway, his face completely purple with rage. My first day as a lord, and I already have a super soldier army and 10,000 new citizens settled in. Loyal but terrified guard and a broken system. I know what you're thinking, not bad for someone trying to hide. So while my new golden squad had everyone outside questioning their life choices, I was discovering the most broken mechanic in video game history. What exactly does the personal experience pool do? Experience pool, accumulated energy saved exclusively to level up the user's skills and body. You can use these 10,000 points to get stronger. How do I get more? Conversion rate is 1,000 to 1. Every 1,000 experience points earned by any unit under your command through combat or training, 1 point transfers to your pool. This rate is fixed. Froze when I saw that 1,000 to 1 sounds terrible. Sounds cheap, but it is actually the most broken thing ever. Let me explain why my mind almost exploded. Because I swear I am the worst warrior in my entire family. A mere level 1 squire. His eyebrows were practically vertical. Dad finally arrived and he was furious, but not at me, at my brothers. The merchant brother who spends his days counting sacks of wheat is stronger. Combat talent is pathetic. None of that matters now because my growth no longer depends on my weak body swinging a wooden sword. It depends entirely on my army, on every soldier who trains hard, defeats an enemy, or wins battles. None of their experience flows straight to me. When soldier trains, I get just a tiny drop of energy. With 100 soldiers, I get a stream. With 1,000, a river. And with 10,000, a flood of power. It does not matter how weak you are when your leveling method is sitting back, while 10,000 people grind for you. I do not need to be a combat genius. I need to be a military strategist, not the path of a knight or a mage. This is the Emperor's path. Those who follow me are batteries powering my rise. The larger my army, the faster my strength grows. The more battles we fight, the stronger I get. Snowball destined to become a massive avalanche. And how exactly do my soldiers gain experience? The primary source is war, by defeating and wiping out any enemy. Turns out he spent half the night writing a dramatic farewell speech, and those 4 idiots stole every single one of his lines. So difficulty matters, trust me. Only the toughest victories will grant you and I the ultimate reward. Come along with me, because this system is literally demanding. I go to war, and trust me, these are no easy fights. The more brutal and bloody the battle, the better the reward. Crushing weaklings only gets you crumbs. Doing something that can actually wipe out my soldiers is the jackpot. And I live on a frozen border crawling with orcs, kobold tribes, ogres, and trolls who are absolutely dying to test the limits of my entire army. Convenient. Stared at my 10,000 experience points, glowing and ready to be used. Then I looked north toward that frozen wasteland crawling with monsters. Border is no longer a punishment. It is a massive feast. A knock on the door snapped me back to reality. Martin walked in with Lane starters. Both stood before my desk. Silver Knight and a gold rank cataphract. Fists to chest. My lord, time to organize this circus. And to Martin first. Tomorrow you reorganize. 100 black iron infantry and 100 cavalry are yours. It was redder than a tomato in a sauna. He roared so hard the tapestries in the hall shook. Plus 300 new recruits from the settlers. 500 soldiers in total. I will name them the Reader Guard. It is the shield protecting the city and key passes. Command them. Martin jumped from his chair like he got shocked. 500 infantry and cavalry troops. It is not just a simple guard. It is an entire army under his command. My lord, his voice trembled with emotion, fist to his chest. Swear on my blood I will forge this shield. As long as I breathe, the city stands. Falls, I fall with her. Down, Martin, you will dent your armor. Now pay attention here. Watch how the temperature drops 10 degrees just by locking eyes with Lane's glowing visor. Lane, your 10 Imperial cataphracts are the spearhead. 9 Frost Knights are already under your command. 10 Bronze Knights will be your lieutenants and scouts. 29 elite riders will form the corps. Add 71 selected recruits as squires. 100 riders total. I will call this the Order of Imperial Cataphract Knights. He suddenly bolted up from his chair. Dark gold armor caught the flames, shining like molten metal. They stole my spotlight. The sun is leaving to conquer wild lands. The sound of his fist hitting his chest was no ordinary salute. It sounded more like an explosion. The fireplace flames flickered from the shockwave. Your command, his voice no longer sounded like cold metal. It was a waking volcano. Wherever the Imperial spear points, there shall lie our sovereign's border. Martin, sitting just a meter away, looked like his skin was crawling from the sheer intensity of the moment, stood up, and walked directly over to Lane's glowing, terrifying face. I stared straight through his visor. Good. Let this imperial spear pierce the northern wind, and let the entire continent remember the name of Kanglin. The fire crackled, casting 3 shadows on the wall, the shield, the spear, and the kid, with a system ready to shake this wasteland. First day is not even over, and I already have a 500-man garrison. 100 elite riders led by gold rank monsters, a loyalty scanner, an experienced farm exploit, and perks that would make kings weep. You and I know the North has no idea what just hit them, not even get an opening line. Didn't exist in this family. Smart person would have stayed quiet. 1 week later, and let me tell you, being a lord is awful. Want to know what they never tell you about ruling frontiers? The damn paperwork. Endless soul-crushing paperwork. I'm here expecting glorious sword fights and legendary battles. Instead, I got data sheets and massive headaches. Week 1, I surveyed the entire territory, mapped out resources, found some useful deposits, and split my 10,000 summoned settlers into 5 groups to found 5 villages. Pretty productive, right? Everything completely under control. Do not have anything under control. Good news, the soil here is black and fertile, just like northeast China in my past life. Incredibly fertile, would rival the southern lands if managed properly. The bad news. My agricultural knowledge consists of random things my parents and grandparents mentioned during dinner. I'm managing food for 20,000 people based on half-forgotten family talks. With the new population, there are 20,000 mouths to feed. Soldiers eat way more than normal people, by the way. So I forgot about precision and assigned 40 acres to every available person. And boy, did something hit me, because the next thing I knew, I woke up as a baby in a totally different world, but something possessed me. Maybe it was greed or stupidity. Probably both. Dad, figure it out yourselves. That was basically my entire farming policy. The previous lord had cleared some farmland, but it was nowhere near enough for my massive population. We are expanding toward the Western Mountains, so my settlers are chopping trees, plowing fields, and building villages all at once. An entire week of 10,000 people working themselves to death. We managed to clear 40,000 acres. Sounds great, but think about 10,000 people working 7 days straight. Trust me, that math is depressing. Meanwhile, military expenses were eating me alive. Converted the Reaver Guard into system troops. Alright, let's look at my new recruits. 300 level 1 Imperials and level 2 Black Iron Infantry. Sounds easy, right? But watch how the system destroys my wallet by charging 10 gold dragons for every level 1 soldier. Level 2 is 15 each. The Reaver Guard cost 5,500 dragons. My funds were literally evaporating. To make things worse, the system's troop tree lacks cavalry upgrades for commoners. Put on my best innocent puppy face. How about we make this simpler? Some pocket money to start. Gold coins. Only nobles can be cavalry. 100 iron riders from the Reaver Guard to the Knight Order, making it 150 riders. Recruiting them into this order costs 3,500 more gold, since everyone needs to be a knight squire for the system to accept them. My gold reserves were bleeding dry. Watch the numbers plunge, literally feeling my soul leave my body. Only silver lining. The low-level starter gear from the system is absolute garbage. We are talking cotton armor with 0 iron, the kind my family hands out to militia to scare off raccoons. So I will sell that junk for 2 dragons a set, scraping back a tiny fraction of my losses. Luckily, my land has great mines, 3 common iron, 1 refined iron, and 1 rare cold iron mine. Our family blacksmiths forge gear that is 1,000 times better than that system trash, and is to supply low levels ourselves, reserving system gear only for level 3 troops and above. That deflated his anger instantly. Look shifted from murderous to cautious hope. Finally, something useful for him to do. Brilliant and efficient, right? Well, watch closely, because that was before I saw the terrifying total bill. 10,000 gold dragons gone in 1 week just recruiting, excluding smiths, construction materials, and food supplies. Not to mention 17 settler fights I had to personally resolve. Shove 20,000 strangers in freezing wastelands and they fight. You know what? Even flat broke, this system is a steal compared to training 10 gold and 9 silver knights from scratch. 10,000 gold wouldn't cut it, nor 100,000. It would take decades and an actual miracle. I got them in 1 week for less than the price of a modest noble estate. My bank account is crying, but it was worth it. Morning of day 7. Sunbeams hitting the mountain of paperwork on my desk. My eyes were so incredibly bloodshot and exhausted they looked like road maps. An all-nighter calculating, and every report brought fresh disaster. Hunting delayed, 35%, 17 unresolved disputes. How much? He asked, puffing out his chest, ready to be the generous patriarch he practiced being all night. Tempering failed at the smithy. In frustration, I snapped my quill in half, ink everywhere. Honestly, we'd all want to throw this chaotic lord life in the trash. Stared out at the Western Mountains, wondering if the coward who ran away screaming actually had the right idea after all. Obviously not. Didn't have a system, golden artifacts, or a powerful uncle with a nearby fortress. He was just a marquis's useless son with huge dreams. I, however, am a different breed of failure, the kind with cheats and anger issues. Right then, my butler entered to announce dinner. Waved him away, eyes locked on the peaks. Hidden in those mountains is enough wealth to fund everything I need. I just need to survive long enough to dig it up. Day 7 and I am broke, exhausted, and furious. Everything is fine, I lie to myself, kicking my chair. Ink everywhere, my expensive rug is totally ruined, and my mental health is completely shattered. Name your price. I will not leave this house without proper support. 800,000, I blurted out without hesitation. Want to know what my glorious isekai life looks like after a week? No beautiful babes or loyal generals, just endless paperwork and stupid peasant disputes over muddy irrigation canals, math and failed metalwork reports. I had soul-crushing corporate jobs just to become a medieval manager. I wanted epic swordplay and glory, not stupid arguments about irrigation canals. I was mid-tantrum, scheming how to trick my dad into sending administrators, when Martin suddenly burst in, snow clinging to his armor and bad news written on his face. He tossed a marked map on my desk. 7 goblin nests containing about 200 pests each. Experts in rock throwing and lethal traps. 5 kobold clans, annoying little nocturnal burrowers, but we can easily handle them. Then Martin jabbed the northwestern corner of the map. 20 adult trolls, each as strong as a bronze knight. Enslaved kobolds as minions, prepping for a small war. Fantastic. And that is how you and I learn to ask for a god-tier budget. No hesitation, like asking for candy that costs an entire army. Don't worry, our gold forces will crush them. You and I must see what's next. All right. Get ready, because the moment Martin unrolled that second map, my blood ran cold. Stood up so fast my desk literally creaked. There it was, an axe drawn in real beast blood right in the eastern sector. Nearly 100 warriors, all way past apprentice level. We are talking at least 5 silver rank orc champions. Martin swallowed hard, telling me they found traces of a shaman altar. The room went dead silent. Shaman altar means totem magic, healing, and worst of all, their leader is probably a terrifying gold rank powerhouse. The shaman is too. Gold rank orcs just roaming freely in my territory. Without solid defenses, they would wipe out every single outer village overnight. Would lose everything. Martin quickly brought some actually good news. Confirmed their gold rank status yet, but they are hoarding food, since they are definitely planning one last pre-winter raid. Stared into the fireplace as memories of this world rushed back. Orcs can rip through chainmail with their bare hands, and when they go berserk, they will charge heavy cavalry head-on. Come along with me, and watch how the hallway fell dead silent after this madness. The old saying goes that 10 orcs take 20 dead soldiers to stop. Real charming guys. Grab the bronze bell off my desk, my ultimate symbol of authority. I was ready to summon Lane and plan a relentless 3-day offensive campaign. I'll pay attention here, because as I glanced outside, black smoke was rising from the north, faint but undeniable. Martin saw it too, his face drained of all color. That was our 3rd scout team sector. Find Lane. Tiger Knights moving right now. Yeah, named them the Flying Tiger Knights, because calling them feline artifact imperial guards under such a touchy king was basically asking to get executed. Basic political survival. The messenger sprinted across the frozen wasteland, but a massive threat was already marching with 3 goblin tribes and 2 kobold clans. They were either too stupid or too hungry to hoard food for the brutal winter. They saw my brand new Chilean village and thought free lunch for 800 of us. A wave of green and brown trash swept across the tundra, reeking of rotten meat and sulfur. Goblins carrying crude weapons. Butler's eye was twitching like crazy, and my father just froze mid-air, hands still raised. Kobolds with rusty axes covered in green slime. Separately, they are pathetic, but marching together like a swarm, absolutely terrifying. But I am no idiot. I had already stationed troops up there, knowing from day one that the north would be our biggest threat. The Chilean had 100 infantry and 50 archers from the Reither Guard, a night patrol from Lane's order guarding the perimeter. Then my scouts spotted something far worse trailing the goblin horde, over 100 Gnoll warriors, with several silver rank leaders leading the pack. I know what you're thinking. Those hyena men were using the goblins as cannon fodder while they waited. My silver rank captain watched and growled. So you think the Kingland domain is an easy target? Signals have already been sent. Reinforcements are on the way. Not a single beast escapes. Suddenly the ground shook as the monsters crested the snowy ridge. 100, 500, 800. A wave of claws and fangs surged toward Chilean's wooden walls. And Barton's voice sliced through the freezing wind like a blade. Shield wall. 100 shields slammed together at once. His eyes said it all. His own flesh and blood was trying to ruin him financially. Impact echoed like thunder. In the shields, spears of tempered steel from our mines gleamed with a cold blue light. On the wooden walls, 50 archers drew their bows in perfect unison. A rookie named Carl had hands so sweaty his arrows kept slipping, staring straight into the fangs of the approaching kobolds. Set angle 60 degrees fire. The whistle of that volley sounded like death tuning its harp. First 20-odd monsters collapsed onto the icy ground, riddled with arrows. But the horde didn't stop, trampling their dead and painting the ice with blood like a scene straight out of absolute hell. Fire at will. The archer captain roared, readying armor-piercing arrows. Aim for the joints. The jagged arrowheads tore through monster flesh, their screams completely drowning out the howling north wind. 20 meters, you could easily see their decaying skin. He lowered his sword 3 steps forward, spear wall ready. Hadn't even arrived yet, but my brave soldiers were already holding the line with everything they had. His face flushed with impossible colors, purple, gray, white, then purple again. He looked like a broken traffic light. Honestly, you and I weren't there, but hearing about it later made it sound like the most epic frozen battle ever. Just picture the scene, 800 bloodthirsty monsters slamming hard into my Reether Guard's shield wall at Chilean village. My boys locked their shields, planted their heavy spears, and held their ground like absolute champions. First wave. The goblins charged and Barton screamed. Javelins and 400 steel shafts turned the sky into a blender. The leading row of monsters was pinned to the frozen ground like hideous, oversized green butterflies. Enemy tide paused for a split second. But then those gnolls flanked them. 100 nightmares sprinting on all fours. Come with me and watch as razor-sharp claws shred the ice, crashing into shields like a furry freight train, and bone dust everywhere. 3 frontline soldiers were sent flying. Second row reacted instantly, thrusting spears through the gaps like striking serpent tongues. Third row immediately covers the next opening. No wolf devours. Roared, drenched in monster blood, fighting back tooth and nail. The shields were barely holding together. Talk about luck, right? 5th son of Count Snowwolf. Sounds pretty great, does it not? But before he could explode, salvation arrived. Or actually, let's call it absolute destruction. My blacksmith's cold steel was our only saving grace. The goblins' poison arrows corroded the metal, but could not pierce through. Null's claws scraped against the breastplates, sending sparks flying without breaking them. Without that armor, my men would be torn to pieces. But the exhaustion was taking a heavy toll. Young rookie Carl's arms were shaking so much he could barely lift his shield. His sweat froze into crystals. Panic filled his eyes. The man right next to him took 3 poison arrows to the shoulder, snapped the shafts with one hand, and kept fighting, while freezing blood formed a red crust on his left side, slowing him down. The right flank crumbled. 3 rows of shields shattered under the heavy impacts. The gnolls shoved their claws into the armor joints. One soldier had his shin guard bitten, poison burning his flesh, but he kept swinging mechanically, boots sunk in bloody ice. Then the silver rank gnoll boss rose up on its hind legs. The tribal tattoos on his chest glowed blood red. Every bone in his massive body started popping like firecrackers. Frost magic swirled around him, ending on your side, of course. Shut it, old cheapskate. Mother finally showed up. A living blizzard torpedo and rammed the wall, freezing the ground with sharp ice spikes as he charged. Screams echoed from the tower. Pay close attention here, because this bone-shredding beast went wild. It was too late. My shield wall was collapsing, and Carl was doomed. And tore his vocal cords, raw screaming out orders. Goblins sensed weakness and marched to the beat of drums, green eyes hungry. This was the end. The absolute limit. One more blow and then tap, tap, tap. Strange sound, soft at first, like tapping on a frozen lake, and louder, faster. Ground began to vibrate. Snow danced like popcorn. The goblin shaman's staff snapped clean in half. Horse hooves. It was the order of the night. The old shaman shrieked in absolute terror. The monster spun around. On the horizon, 10 brilliant suns suddenly appeared. They weren't suns. They were my elite cataphracts. Dark gold armor shone like molten stars tearing across the snowy field. Inhuman fortresses riding 2-meter-tall dragon-blooded chargers, all of them heavily protected by thick, cold iron armor. 6-meter lances pointed straight to the sky, their golden aura-infused tips shining bright like tails of shooting comets. Lady Lydia Windsor, daughter of the Frost Raven Duke, one of the most feared men in the entire north. Horses' armor breathed out freezing steam from their vents. Frozen ground cracked under their heavy hooves. The silver-ranked null boss whined mid-frenzy, whimpered, because those golden flames on each cataphract were not just for show. They condensed, taking the form of winged tigers. Golden war spirits with fiery eyes and sword-like wings. I know what you're thinking. Only gold-rank knights can pull off this technique, turning their raw battle aura into ancient souls of war. Behind those 10 golden riders, 100 heavy knights in cold iron armor, steam rising from their joints, lowered their 3-meter lances in perfect unison. 100 spiral shockwaves ripped through the snow, merging together over the battlefield to form one colossal phantom, a massive winged tiger totem that covered the entire sky. Leonardus raised his dark gold visor, and his battle cry shook the earth. We shake the world. Lances struck the air so hard they created white sonic vapor cones, and barriers shattered before the tiger's wings, or deep purple mage robes glittering with runes and star sapphires. Their piece alone cost more than an entire mansion. 100 voices merged into a wall of sound. Phantom Tiger spread its wings, and the entire cavalry tripled their speed. Those hooves weren't just stepping anymore, they were the drums of the apocalypse. The plain split wide open before them. 800 monsters spent 20 minutes thinking they were the predators. Now they had 3 seconds to realize they were actually the prey. Let me tell you what my cataphracts did to those 800 monsters, and I apologize in advance, because this might sound like a lie, but it isn't. Silver rank Null Boss, clad in ice armor, just about to rip rookie Carl's throat out, didn't get a second to celebrate, because Lane's Dragonsteel Lance struck him at extreme speed, breaking the sound barrier. Visible shockwave exploded. The Null Boss's frozen body shattered like a glass sculpture hit by a massive wrecking ball. Starting from the head, every shard of ice evaporated into Lane's golden aura before they could even hit the ground. The beast couldn't even scream as the loud sonic boom completely swallowed its cries. Walked in owning that hallway, the entire castle, and the dignity of everyone standing there. And just like that, the 100 riders behind Lane crashed into the monster horde in a tight wedge formation. Get ready, because you and I are about to dive into something so insane. It is like a giant lawnmower shredding a field of screaming, ugly watermelons. Frontline goblins ended up crushed against the ice, pulverized under iron horseshoes like fruit pulp on a cutting board, splashing green juice everywhere. Commander screamed, using corpses as a wall to push his troops forward. 3 bear goblins raised wooden shields, but the shockwave of the spears shattered them before impact. A single spear skewered all 3 goblins in a row like a kebab. The rider flicked his wrist, tossing the 3 bodies to knock down cobalt archers. Goblin shaman went wild, screaming for them to shoot. Shoot them. A dozen poison arrows flew right at Lane's face, but stopped dead in their tracks. They floated there, vibrating inside his golden aura. Lane waved his hand, and the arrows flew back at triple speed. Damon ended up pinned to a dead tree by 7 of his own arrows, still vibrating as he died. My father a single glance. The great count, the terrifying snow wolf who feared no one. The cavalry wheeled around for another charge. The battlefield fell into a dead silence. Surviving gnolls huddled in terror among the mangled remains of their allies. Snow on the ground was completely gone. The red carpet of crushed flesh and bone splinters beneath the ice. Lane closed his visor, speaking cold as a glacier. Round 2. Clean this up. And trust me, watching those 100 horses advance again drove the surviving monsters completely insane. The last few dozen goblins and gnolls did the only thing their shattered minds could process. They charged right into my wall of spears. They preferred death by steel over being trampled again. Just think. My cavalry was so terrifying that the monsters actually chose suicide as the more merciful option. The second charge was even worse. Lane's spear grazed the ground, leaving a golden trail of fire that carved burning trenches through the frozen mud. Horses neighed in fury, their dragon blood breath instantly forming sharp crimson crystals. He immediately shrank back like a scared turtle. Then Mom looked at me, and her death stare melted into pure motherly love. The shockwave from the hooves shattered the bloody ice, launching shredded monster parts 10 meters into the air. Gnoll leader watched a hoof smash his left leg into the ice, instantly vaporized his entire torso. Flying kidney smacked a rider's armor, froze solid, and bounced away like a marble. The sonic boom reached the infantry before the riders did, and goblins slammed into a wall of compressed air. Their eyes ruptured inside their skulls, and spurted from their ears in frozen streams. And if you think that was all, imagine 100 jackhammers slamming down on these monsters all at once. Meters away, watched a gnoll's head pop under a hoof like a cartoon watermelon. Brain froze in midair like pearls. A nearby cobalt was grazed by armor and lost half its body. It was exposed and instantly frozen, and leapt over the infantry's shield wall for the finale. He spotted a bear goblin playing dead. Simple tap of his spear injected it with golden aura. My son, take this. It puffed up like a balloon and exploded. Flying chunks rocks vaporized into a crimson mist, turning into red snow that drifted down like the most twisted holiday decoration you have ever seen. Once finished, the cavalry lined up in silence, instantly, in the -40-degree air. In them, the road was carved with parallel trenches through monster remains, like a barcode written by the hand of God. Lane opened his visor, scooped up red snow filled with bone splinters, and let it vaporize in his aura. Clean it up. Harvest the magic crystal cores. Lord needs research material. Surviving soldiers leaned on their spears, vomiting. The ground was no longer dirt. It was a 15-centimeter layer of frozen monster paste. One recruit peeled his boot off the ice, pulling up a shredded piece of goblin ear. On a distant hill, a few surviving kobolds dug holes in desperation just to hide. Down went a massive enchanted mithril chest twice the size of Carlos's box, packed with magic gems, spatial runes, and heavy security barriers. Seeing the cavalry watch them, they jumped into their pits and slit their own throats, rather than hear those hooves again. My cavalry stripped away their will to live. This is not just a military victory, it is psychological extinction. Barton professionally tended to the wounded. Those with minor injuries went to the local doctor. Severely injured received Leon's healing potions given by my brother before leaving. Every living soldier was precious future veterans to train the rest. Then Barton rushed over to Lane, saluting so hard he nearly dislocated his shoulder. Barton of the 1st Rethig Company salutes. Lane nodded. Flying Tiger Knights fight hard for our Lord. And trust me, we're about to see why he was right. For this, Barton was just a black iron warrior, stuck behind a wall he could never hope to break. Using my system, I promoted him to Imperial Soldier. Intense training and racking up enough experience meant 25 gold dragons to upgrade him to a level 3 veteran, instantly shattering his bronze rank limits, 200,000 gold coins. Spend it however you want without asking your cheap father for permission. The massive wall he fought for years crumbled in a single afternoon, all because his lord clicked a virtual button. That man would march straight into hell for me, and when the rest of my soldiers saw Barton's transformation, they realized following me meant breaking every natural limit. Every single one of them became a devoted believer. I didn't just win a battle today. Built a highly armed, fiercely loyal cult. I was totally fine with that. In my study, Lane handed over the battle report, but I wasn't in a good mood. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice cold enough to freeze the fireplace solid. I haven't even gone looking for trouble, yet these beasts are already knocking on my door. They think I'm like the last loser who abandoned his land and fled, and dropped to one knee with a fierce look. My lord, according to Martin's reports, everything north is small fry, except the trolls and orcs. Give me 10 days to personally wipe them off our land. The guy was practically vibrating with excitement. Pay attention here, because he has every right to be this confident. Being the 5th son here is basically like being a backup dancer behind 4 global superstars. Watch closely here, a servant literally drops a silver candelabra in shock. But Mom wasn't finished yet. These cataphracts aren't just basic gold rank warriors. In the Cattle Empire, they were reserve candidates for the legendary Imperial Elite Order. Every single one of them survived countless bloody battles. They were former nobles trained from childhood with unlimited resources, handpicked from millions. They only missed the elite cut because the Cattle Empire's standards were completely insane compared to this world. They are walking natural disasters. Lane estimated clearing everything in 5 days using just his 10 cataphracts. The only reason to take any longer was to give the new Flying Tiger Knight order some real combat practice. Company of the Ritter Guard with you, I ordered, so they can level up and scout the cleared lands. Search for any useful resources. Yes, my lord. Then Martin suggested something that proved I hired the perfect psychopath. My lord, there is no need to eliminate all the kobolds and goblins. Raised an eyebrow. Explain. If anyone gives you trouble out there, she said, chin up like a queen judging simple peasants. Kobolds are natural-born miners, Martin said with a sinister smile. Omnivores and incredibly cheap to feed. Since they are strong, we can enslave them to mine alongside the villagers. And as for the goblins, his smile turned ice-cold. 0 breeding limits, they mate with anything, and they reach adulthood in just 1 month. So, If we breed them like livestock, we'll get a fresh batch of adult goblins every 40 days for our recruits to slaughter. Instant renewable combat experience. It was literally proposing a goblin breeding farm. Breed them, raise them, slaughter them. Maybe you and I aren't looking at an infinite experience farm right now. Then Lane, a guy who has minced hundreds of monsters without blinking, shivered when he heard that, stared at Martin, shocked that someone else could be this terrifying, but he quickly recovered. After all, back in the Caradel Empire days, his unit used to hunt bandits just to train new recruits. Me, in my past life, I played Paradox games like Crusader Kings and Europa Universalis. Your grandfather's fortress is less than 200 meters north of your new land. Go find your Uncle Andre. If you've ever browsed those forums, you know every player is basically a walking violation of the Geneva Conventions and war crimes into speedruns and fully optimized atrocities. Did budget-friendly genocides over lunch. Being heartless wasn't just a meme, it was our mission. When Martin proposed the farm, my brain didn't think it was horrific. Quite the opposite, actually. You can optimize the cycle by separating the offspring by age groups. 3 evil geniuses shared a look. Quick glance around the room, then at each other. Yep. Perfect harmony, with 3 world-class villains. The next day, Lane set out, his dark gold armor slicing through the snow like a blade through silk. Tiger Knight Order rode right behind him, 150 heavy-armored riders, their weapons gleaming in the pale winter light. They halted 500 meters from the troll nest. Lane gritted his teeth as he scanned the dense forest, commands the military garrison and is an elite Imperial commander. You're my son, and he'll handle it. The Ritter Guard is 5 minutes away. Stick with me to find out what happens after this tense silence. Alright, let's dive into this madness together. Lane watched the grove, ordering a 5-minute rest. When the infantry arrived, his voice turned to absolute ice. We'll enter and crush those beasts, Commander. A brief calculating pause flickered in his cold blue eyes. Any cobalt surrenders, tie them up and deliver them to the guard. Goblin Farm was active, but first, 20 trolls had to be put 6 feet under once and for all. 5 minutes later, the guard infantry arrived. No dramatic speeches, no hesitation. They took their positions behind the cavalry, like a rising tide of steel. Shields slammed against the frozen ground as walls of spears sealed every escape. Inside, 20 trolls enjoyed their final meal completely unaware. They had no idea. Just 1 day later, Lane tore down the main entrance of the troll nest. And by entrance, I mean the entire camp. Tiger Knights, wedge formation, charged the nest. Didn't even exist in nature. Opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Anyone in our way dies for the Empire. Strike hard and shake the world. 150 heavy cavalry charged through that camp like a hurricane over an anthill. 500 meters at full gallop was absolutely nothing. The trolls barely had time to scream before that massive avalanche of steel completely crushed them. Horns wailed as spears skewered troll bodies like sticks through wet clay. That is just how it goes with them. Sure, they are massive, tall, and terrifying, but against heavy armored cavalry charging at full speed, bigger, easier targets. All that thick skin and bone armor that easily terrifies normal soldiers. Enchanted spears of my riders sliced through everything like paper. Their giant wooden clubs barely left a dent, just minor dents. The path of the charge was a trail of green blood, broken bones, and frozen flesh. Every single spear pierced cleanly. Every sword slash tore off limbs while hooves crushed trolls. Behind them, my guard infantry advanced like an impenetrable wall. Just let out a long choked hiss, the sound of a man whose wallet and pride were utterly wrecked by his wife in front of all his servants. A forest of spears marched forward, methodically taking down anyone who tried to escape. Those cobalt slaves dropped their weapons so fast they broke a record, face planting into the snow like terrified pancakes. Then the real boss made his entrance. A roar so massive it literally shook the ground. A makeshift shelter exploded, and out stepped a 4-meter monster with golden scales, giant fangs, and eyes full of pure rage. The gold-rank troll boss. His overwhelming pressure made the air heavy. Felt like standing right in front of a furnace of pure hatred. Ripped a massive wooden beam from a collapsed building, thick as a human body, and swung it at Lane like a giant mace. The sheer gust of wind from that swing alone would have easily knocked down any normal person. A normal warrior would have panicked, trying to dodge this, and did not even flinch. Cover me, a calm, precise command. His left flank guard understood instantly. Let's calculate exactly what just happened to me. 10,000 gold coins from my older brother. Brave knight was carrying a massive tower shield engraved with imperial runes. He put all his strength into it. Runes glowed with pure energy as he steered his horse to block the giant beam for Lane. A deafening crash. The guard's horse neighed and slid backward, leaving deep horseshoe tracks carved into the snow. The shield cracked, damaging those glowing energy runes, but it successfully absorbed the impact. Wood splinters flew everywhere like deadly shrapnel. In that split second, the troll boss recoiled, completely paralyzed. On the right, Lane's other guard was waiting for this exact moment, without using a spear. Instead, he wielded a two-handed warhammer, something built specifically to shatter the indestructible. The troll's weight shifted, forcing him to drop his guard for an instant. Hammer Knight charged, using his horse's momentum to strike right behind the giant boss's knee. 100,000 from Mom, 3,000 workers, 200 elite soldiers, and 10 bronze rank knight officers. Imagine the brutal snap of a thick branch breaking, but much louder, wetter, and coming from a giant monster. Gold rank troll boss staggered, caught between pure agony and blind rage. His red eyes glared at the Hammer Knight, lashing out wildly. But that strike was never meant to kill. It was just the setup. Lane waited, hidden behind his guards, ready to make his move. No flashy moves, just pure patience and absolute precision. An elite predator calculating his strike as the troll collapsed. And that's where we leave it, with the monster roaring in pain as Lane strikes. Don't miss what's coming. Come with me and let's watch how his weapon, an imperial armor-piercing rapier, tears the enemy to shreds. We are talking about a heavy rapier designed solely to pierce brutal defenses. No flashy spins or slashes, just a giant needle ready to find cracks and drill through everything. Lane nudged his horse barely half a step, and the steed surged forward as if reading his mind. Green gleam sliced through the air like a striking serpent. Food for 10,000 people for a year, 100 military-grade healing potions, and my own uncle. The rapier shot forward with the combined power of rider and mount, aiming with pinpoint precision right beneath the troll chieftain's throat, where the scales met the soft flesh. Gap so tiny it would take a magnifying glass to spot this fleeting weakness. In barely half a second, while the beast roared, King found it, and that's where we leave this troll chieftain. An imperial blade flying straight at his throat. Lethal three-man team where the shield blocks, the hammer crushes knees, and the sword cuts necks. No questions asked. None of that lone hero nonsense, just cold, professional, mechanical lethality. What real gold rank knights look like. No drama, no shouting, just terrifying efficiency. And these guys work for me. The rapier punched through the troll chieftain's throat like a hot needle through butter, because this 4-meter monster was the absolute king of the frozen north. Second later, he was staring at a thin rapier in his neck, thinking things were going very badly. He twisted the blade and ripped it out. An Imperial Fortress commander at my disposal. I know what you're thinking, but our peaceful plan is totally ruined now. Ray of dark green blood flecked with gold, 'cause even their blood is fancy at gold rank, gushed from the wound like a burst pipe. Troll chieftain let out a wet gurgle, dropping to his knees like a collapsing building, and crashed down dead on the blood-soaked snow. Just like that, the surviving trolls saw their invincible leader fall, and decided today was a great day to flee, running and tripping over themselves. Kobold slaves shoved their faces so deep into the snow they seemed to want to dig to the other side of the earth. Lane sat calmly on his horse beside the massive corpse. Blood dropped from his flawless rapier as he watched the cleanup with the coldness of a stone statue. Round up prisoners and clear the area. Execute the trolls. Move the surrendered kobolds to the rear by high command order. His escorts silently flanked him, one with his shield completely shattered, the other with bits of troll flesh still clinging to his warhammer. Nobody said a word. This deadly trio that obliterated a gold rank monster in 10 seconds didn't need any congratulations. This house is barely higher than the old dog sleeping in the sun. Introduce my family real quick. Mom comes from a powerful magic clan. Instead, they turned me into a walking treasury with my own army and massive family backup just 200 meters away. They just wanted a clean towel. An hour later, the entire troll nest was burning to ashes. Lane watched emotionlessly as the fire consumed the filth. Suddenly, a scout arrived with their next target, an orc settlement. They suspect a gold-rank shaman and chieftain. Real power unconfirmed. Lane nodded in response. While he plans his northern march, let's head back to our main character, who's calmly drawing farming blueprints by the fire. Charcoal softly scratches against the parchment. Suddenly, a system notification rings out. Battle report from the Flying Tiger Knight Order. Nest cleared. Absolute victory with 0 casualties. A clean sweep. 1 gold rank boss, 5 silver rank elites, and 15 bronze rank warriors, 10 young black iron trolls, and several kobold minions. Total experience gained, 150,000. My commander experience goes up by 150 points. 50 soldiers ready for promotion. I drop the pencil and finally smile. 0 casualties, a dead gold rank boss, and 150,000 experience. Not bad for day 1 of the campaign. Didn't ask for a golden parachute. They literally strapped me to a golden rocket. Open the promotion interface. The screen pops up and my smile vanishes instantly. Infantry promotions, 10 recruits to Imperial Infantry for 15 gold each. Infantry to veterans for 25. Riding tier 30 guard recruits to citizen riders for 25 coins each. 5 riders to heavy cavalry for 50 each. The system displays a massive red total at the bottom. 1,275 gold coins for the squad. And that's just the promotion. There's food, upkeep, salaries, and endless expenses draining my vault. Let's do some scary math. Mom gave me 200,000 coins. Brother chipped in 10,000. And I had 30,000 from the system. That makes 240,000 total. Sounds like a fortune, but I have 20,000 mouths to feed, roads and a castle to repair, walls to build, blacksmiths to pay, towns to establish, and farmlands to develop, an army that costs me more to maintain than a high-end luxury hotel. Castle gates swung wide open and an entire army was waiting outside. And that's where we leave it. Because at this rate, my gold reserves will end up as empty as my past life bald head. Get ready, because today you and I are watching our main character go absolutely broke thanks to his own army. His desk, inkwells and parchment flew, instantly evaporated, replaced by pure financial panic. I need cash right now. Not tomorrow, not next week. It is now or never. Or this whole operation collapses and we eat snow for dinner. First, those 50 unpromoted soldiers. Leaving troops unupgraded is just wasting potential. Every day they fight without leveling up is experience thrown straight in the trash. Them execute all promotions. Heavy cavalry gear ready immediately. Confirmed and currently processing. Deducting funds. Warning, significant treasury reduction in progress. And just like that, the gold counter starts plummeting. Watching that number drop hurt like getting my fingernails ripped out. Does not care about my feelings. Just takes my cash with all the cold indifference of a city parking meter. Rows of heavy black armored soldiers, wolf emblem cavalry, and spears pointing to the sky like a forest of cold steel. My treasury went from comfortable to critical in 4 seconds flat. I just stared at the final balance. Then I looked out the window toward the western mountains. Beneath that ice and rock lay valuable iron veins, or maybe something even rarer. I need to crack those mountains open like a piggy bank, and I need it done yesterday. Being a lord isn't all glory and swords. It is spreadsheets and bankruptcy panic. Truly, the ultimate boss in this world is accounting. Now pay close attention here because upgrading soldiers remotely in the middle of a campaign has a crazy side effect. They go completely wild with gratitude. The moment I confirmed those 50 promotions from my cozy office, every single soldier up in the frozen north received a sudden, massive surge of power. 1 second, they are polishing their swords. And the next, their muscles are tearing apart and rebuilding themselves in real time. Their bones restructure and combat techniques download into their brains like they are in the Matrix. It lasted for a split second, and then boom, absolute power flooding their cells. Knights lining the sides, and thousands of workers with loaded wagons behind them. Lord Windsor, they roared, slamming weapons to the ground. A newly promoted heavy cavalryman grabbed his spear, the same one he struggled to hold yesterday, and felt it light as a toothpick. Battle tactics he had never even studied suddenly appeared crystal clear in his mind. His armor felt weightless like his own skin. Then all 50 spun south toward the castle and began to worship their lord. Praise the Lord. The great Ron gave us this power. They were not just grateful. Because in a world where reaching the next power level takes years of brutal sacrifice, blood and sweat. Where most warriors spend their entire lives stuck in a single rank, Lord leveled them up while casually sipping tea in his office. No rituals, just instant divine blessing. And let's be honest, you and I would think the exact same thing seeing this kind of divine display. Basically, they have no idea it is actually a video game system. Unpromoted soldiers saw their peers get insanely strong, triggering a desperate urge to stand out and be next in line. Deafening roar hit me like a solid wall. My heart skipped a beat before my siblings shoved me into the carriage. In 30 seconds, the entire unit's motivation flipped from professional duty to absolute fanaticism. He stopped cleaning his sword, watched the horde of new fanatics bowing toward the south, and behind his visor, I'm pretty sure he smiled because he understood exactly what just went down. This army went from simple troops to a devout cult, and those believers fight with a madness no training could ever replicate. "Move out," Lane ordered, his voice cold but incredibly sharp. Knights mounted in unison, turning their burning fanaticism into deadly ice. Devotion plus discipline equals a living nightmare. Next target, the Orc settlement, codename Blood Howl. Knights assembled 500 meters from the camp. Total silence. Frost so thick you could almost bite it. Lane pointed directly at a crack in the wooden wall, dropped his hand. The war horn blared charge, and the onslaught was faster than ever before. The 50 upgraded soldiers charged with everything. Brand new heavy cavalrymen led the wedge formation, and I use the word carriage lightly, because this thing was basically a literal palace on wheels, their bodies overflowing with a power they did not even have an hour ago, ramming their spears into the wood joints like human battering rams. Crack. Boom. An entire section of the wall exploded inward. Shattered logs snapped like toothpicks and foundations crumbled, and debris kicked up into the freezing air. Spears and drawing sabers, the cavalry pushed straight through the breach like molten steel without stopping. Lane burst through the smoke cloud first, shield raised, saber gleaming. An orc warrior leaped from the dust. Lane's blade slices his throat before he can even scream, and trust me, this is just the beginning of the end. Alright, you and I are about to watch these terrifying promoted knights, whose shield play deflects attacks to counter with deadly spins. Blade techniques that should have taken years to master were executed effortlessly within the narrow alleys of the orc huts. Literally became human blenders. Orcs fell like grass before a scythe in a 90-second slaughter, but then the real fight against Rohair began. Magic beast leather seats, softer than clouds, polished wood walls, and golden wolf sculptures carved into the armrests. The stone house exploded as the orc boss charged. Blackscar Grush, a massive gold rank monster, swung a battle axe forged from pure hatred while a fiery red aura erupted from his body. Hovering right behind him was the gold rank shaman, Bonir Mogul, suspended in mid-air with his staff glowing with a sickly light. 2 gold rank orcs confirmed my worst nightmare, bringing rotting blood mist and shattered earth. The shaman unleashed poisonous green fog, while the ground cracked with stone fingers trying to crush my cavalry. 2 gold rank bosses, toxic magic, and constant earthquakes in a camp crawling with furious orcs. It was Lane and his 10 cataphacs against the orc leaders in a clash that would decide if my territory survived. Mention here, because back at the castle I was just watching my gold drop, totally clueless about the danger. Being an absentee warlord gets incredibly stressful when your communication signal cannot even reach the freezing tundra. I could only wait and watch my money vanish in an instant, golden patterns on the windows and a fist-sized luminescent pearl shining from the ceiling like some ultra-luxury lamp. That my golden killing machines were as good as promised, and spoiler alert, they absolutely were. That is for later. Right now, I am still processing that my own soldiers literally worship me like a celestial god. I went from useless 5th son to messiah in a single week. Pure madness in that orc fight. It lasted 15 seconds. No exaggeration. Lane roared to the gold rank squad to immediately execute both the shaman and the boss. Then 10 golden suns ignited all at once as my 10 cataphacs unleashed their immense, overwhelming power. One cataphract hurled a javelin of pure battle aura etched with anti-magic runes. Just as Shaman Mogul tried raising his bone shield, that javelin ripped right through his defense like wet paper. The shaman blasted backward as his death spells flickered out, completely cut off from their power source. Meanwhile, 4 cataphracts formed a wedge targeting boss Grush, and their leader activated the gold rank skill, Unmovable Fortress. His shield transformed into a massive wall of golden energy, sporting a roaring tiger to ram the boss at full speed. A single corner of this ride screamed luxury. Brush swung his axe, wrapped in blood-red flames, slamming directly into the center of the shield. Honestly, you and I would have gone deaf from that brutal clash. One shockwave flattened everything within 30 meters. The knight's horse neighed, carving deep grooves into the soil, but the warrior did not yield a single inch. The shield cracked but held firm, leaving Grush completely exposed. His heavy axe deflected and his guard wide open. 3 golden shadows slipped past the shield like ghosts, unsheathing 3 blades ready to deliver 3 paths to death. The first sword crackled with lightning, and the second was cloaked in freezing ice. The third blade moved fast enough to create a sonic boom, and Lane, using his lethal, subtle, piercing rapier, aimed straight for the throat, because that is his signature move, and it never fails. Grush only managed to utter no. The sword shattered his bloody aura. The ice froze his ribs, and the sonic blade snapped his axe handle. Lane's rapier pierced his throat. 4 gold rank knights attacking simultaneously caused the orc boss to literally explode. Father is literally the Grand Duke of the entire Northern Territory. Money, and I want everyone. Good grief. I know you agree, but I'd be terrified to park this in my old garage. Blood, sparks, ice shards, and shattered armor flew everywhere. I was dead before hitting the freezing ground. The shaman was still struggling to rise when 2 other cataphracts threw homing javelins enchanted with purification. One pierced his skull and the other his heart, never to rise again. Both gold rank orcs, the absolute biggest threat to my land, died in under 20 seconds without using their skills. Watching pro gamers speedrun 2 final bosses they had already memorized inside out. The remaining 4 cataphracts, who did not even join the boss fight, swept in to wipe out the silver rank commanders. Calling them tigers among sheep is a massive understatement. The gap between gold and silver rank is so massive that these veterans, survivors of 1,000 bloody battles, fell instantly. Once finished, Lane just calmly wiped the blood from his blade. The 10 cataphracts silently deactivated their golden auras, returning to formation as if absolutely nothing had happened, incredibly smoothly, thanks to the sound-dampening magic barriers built right into it. The nightly order cleaned up. The field was devastated, like a tornado and earthquake collided in a slaughterhouse. Come along with me, because in the middle of this mess lay 2 absolutely shredded gold rank corpses. I was in my study designing farms when the system pinged with the battle report of the Tiger Knights defeating the orcs. Overwhelming victory. Casualties, 7 minor injuries, 0 dead. No serious injuries. Gold rank enemies wiped out, the boss Grush Black Scar and the shaman Mogul. Every single silver rank orc commander was finished, along with the rest of their army. Total experience, 215,000 points from the gold multiplier. My personal experience went up 215 points, but the next number stopped my heart for a whole different reason. Loot value, 18,000 to 22,000 gold dragons. Read it 3 times, then a 4th. Sound between a laugh and a sob escaped my mouth. 20,000 coins from just 1 battle. That almost covers my promotion costs and the next upgrades. War is not just for gaining experience. Looking out the window, I watched the Snow Wolf Castle shrink slowly in the distance behind me. It is my financial plan. Monster parts, rare materials, and magic cores. Turns out dead gold ranks are worth a fortune. Also showed 70 new soldiers ready for promotion. 70. That is going to cost a fortune, and my wallet was barely recovering. But pay attention here. The math finally adds up. Hunt expensive monsters, get loot to pay for upgrades, and get superior soldiers. They fight better, they get more loot. Not a bottomless pit, it is an investment cycle. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. 2 gold rank threats eliminated. Secure territory on all fronts. Army gets stronger with every passing day. The treasury recovers thanks to the loot. Others worship me like a god for giving them inexplicable instant upgrades. A week ago, I was a broke, stressed out lord screaming about irrigation canals. Now I am a military leader with a self-sufficient economy, protected by 10 gold knights who can vaporize bosses in 15 seconds, a fanatical army ready to march to hell and back for me. Frozen North has been warned. Then came the farmlands and dark pine forests standing like green giants. Joined this family as the useless 5th son. England domain is ready for business. Looked at the report once more. Overwhelming victory, 0 deaths, 2 gold rank bosses erased, 215,000 experience points. Best of all, 18,000 gold dragons in loot. And to think I used to complain complain about the 1,275 gold coins spent on promotions. Meanwhile, my army recovered 15 times that amount in a single battle. I know you and I are thinking the same thing: war is a gold mine. It is a massive moneymaker. 20 more soldiers ready to promote. My wallet instinctively trembled, but I will not be cheap anymore. These soldiers earned their upgrade with monster blood. Time to reinvest. Promote them all. Ding. Gold goes down, military power goes up. The cycle of life. Sipped my honey wine, watching the numbers drop with the calm smile of someone who finally understands his business. Sending gold to strengthen soldiers. Sending strong soldiers to kill giant monsters that drop even more gold. Repeat the process and grow without limits. I am not ruling a territory. I am managing a war-based investment fund. Days later, my army returned home. But I'm leaving as the most overfunded border lord in history, though that fairy tale ended 30 minutes into the trip. Not in the watchtower, but the guards told me all about it. Golden sunset melting over the snow. And from that glowing horizon, an army of steel emerged like ghosts straight out of a painting, with Lei leading them. Dark gold armor stood out against the dying sun, casting shadows like flags. Behind him, 150 knights in perfect formation marched with cold stares and in absolute silence. The sound of hooves was a low, infinite thunder that rumbled through the frozen earth. In the cavalry, the scene was entirely different. Hundreds of terrified kobolds marched hunched over and shivering, guided by blood-stained infantry who, though exhausted, held their weapons ready to strike at the slightest movement. Green and grey river of captives stretching to the horizon. The tower guards went wild. It is the flying tigers, they are back. Look at those prisoners. There are hundreds. Find Martin. Alert the Lord. The entire town erupted. People running and pointing at the column of steel advancing towards the gates. That quiet border settlement suddenly felt like a massive capital welcoming home its conquering army. The further we got from the castle, the worse everything looked. Green fields vanished, replaced by frozen wastelands and withered moss. An hour later, they counted the captives and sent them to a camp heavily guarded by the watch. Infantry and cavalry dragged themselves to the barracks, throwing their armor onto the floor. They collapsed face down on their bunks. Within minutes, snoring shook the walls after days of continuous marching and combat. Lane did not rest at all. He wiped off the blood and mud, marching straight to my castle alongside Martin in full armor. Gold rank knights do not need sleep. They run on pure duty and violence. While I was still reading boring agricultural reports in my study, dive into this wild Manhwa with me. Glamorous life completely flips when the butler announces Martin and Lane want an audience. I'm in, but I paused for a second. Wait. Get a room ready for Lane. And hot water, lots of it. Tell the kitchen to make plenty of hot food. That man is fresh from battle. He needs a meal, not a meeting. And probably hasn't eaten either. The butler nodded in approval. Simple gesture. But I've learned something valuable in this new life. Majestic tall trees turned into twisted shapes, looking like skeletal hands begging the sky for mercy. Soldiers will die for a lord who treats them like human beings, whether they are gold-ranked killing machines or not. Jane spent days sleeping on frozen ground and eating dry rations. Hot bath and real food cost me nothing, but they buy priceless loyalty. Study door swung open. Martin entered first, spotless but vibrating with excitement like a kid on Christmas. Behind him came Lane in dark gold armor, firelight flashing off the damaged metal, brought with him the scent of frozen blood and absolute victory. The room temperature dropped 2 degrees just from his overwhelming, powerful presence. 2 men who are my shield and spear, one bursting with energy, and the other cold as the grave, both loyal. I leaned back comfortably in my chair. A week and a half ago, I was only a scared teenager with a golden carriage and a prayer. Now I'm sitting in my castle welcoming my victorious commanders, who just wiped out every single threat on the map using my own army. Nests destroyed, samples captured for the experience farm. Cobalt clans completely conquered. Blue sky gave way to heavy grey clouds suffocating the atmosphere. And then came the brutal, unforgiving cold, forced to work in the mines. Troll tribe wiped out with their gold rank chief dead. The Orc settlement, completely gone. 2 gold rank bosses eliminated in 15 seconds. Northern border secured. Treasury recovered with 18,000 gold coins in loot. A fanatically loyal army that gets stronger after every single battle. And we haven't even touched the Western Mountains yet. The real treasure still awaits us. Looked at my 2 commanders standing firm in front of my desk and for the first time on this frozen wasteland felt something totally new. It wasn't anxiety or panic, nor the desperate survival instinct of a transmigrated soul clinging to a borrowed power. Just confidence, that quiet, steady kind, telling you that this works. The plan is running smoothly, and everything will grow so much bigger. Take a seat, gentlemen, I told them. Let's discuss what comes next. He entered my office, looking like he'd been dragged through a slaughterhouse, rolled in mud, and frozen overnight. His armor was so covered in troll green, orc red, and frozen dirt that you couldn't even see its original color. Being cold is unbearable. The man reeked of pure battle, stood firm right in front of my spotless wooden desk. He looked down at himself, then glanced at my couch covered in fine fur, and I swear I saw actual shame on that gold rank killer's face, like a kid who messed up the house. Got up, walked around the desk, and pushed him onto the couch. Battle stains are a warrior's medals. They never make a mess. But this neat office, on the other hand, sometimes clean places hide bloody choices. You're home now, rest. Something shifted in his tired gaze, a sudden spark. Lane's loyalty was no longer just about duty. It was personal now. Feel everything falling into place. Bet you agree with me that a kind word after battle is worth more than 1,000 gold coins. Give me your report and go eat. Hot water and a room await. Let me rest tomorrow. Banquet the day after. Lane stood up straight, exhausted but alert, ready to deliver some great news. Northern threats eliminated absolute music to my ears. In the Orc camp, they found a level 3 cold iron mine and 2 level 1 refined iron deposits. It pierced through my ridiculous gold carriage like luxury meant absolutely nothing. Breathing felt like swallowing needles. More mines to add to the tally. My territory was quickly becoming a literal gold mine. We captured over 3,100 cobalt prisoners for the mines. Free labor, thanks to the defeated monsters. The mining operations just got a massive injection of fresh labor. Following your orders, we led about 200 goblins and wild goats to Broken Column Valley and confirmed the valley is safe, enclosed, and predator-free. Goblin population will surpass 1,000 in 2 months. By then, resource shortages will split them into 2 tribes, creating the perfect training ground for our new recruits. The farm is officially operational. 100 goblins trapped with food, breeding fast, and splitting into tribes we can hunt for constant combat experience. My tactical brain was absolutely thrilled. Stick with me, because what I told Lane next almost made him fall off the couch. Strength is almost at the threshold of an Imperial elite cataphract. His eyes widened in sheer shock. Daddy's account so feared he makes high society tremble. Carlos, my oldest brother, is as strong as a living weapon. I wrapped up in my bear coat. But what do you and I think is waiting for us in this frozen hell? An Imperial elite cataphract, the legendary military pinnacle of the entire Caradel Empire. Think about it. An Earth Knight, that supreme level before which even proud Baron's bow was finally well within our main character's grasp. Take your squad to the Western Mountains and hunt monsters. From black iron to silver, it is the perfect rank for intense training. Gather experience. Once you are ready, I will personally level you up. He bolted upright from the couch. He knelt, slamming his fist to his chest. Boom. His voice cracked with raw emotion. Old ruthless killing machine who decapitates gold rank orcs without blinking was now literally trembling with excitement. Thank you, my lord, Lane stammered. No simple upgrade. In the ancient Kittle Empire, elite knights held noble status. Ordinary barons respected them deeply. It was the ultimate military honor, and his lord promised it like he was handing out a casual bonus. I sent him to eat, bathe, and sleep. Poor guy desperately needed all 3. The next morning, a pale winter light slowly crawled over the town of Kangland. All right, you and I are heading straight into a frozen wasteland where a silent army marches. No battle cries, just wheels crunching on ice, clashing armor, and a freezing wind howling through the dead grass like an angry ghost. The castle kitchens were buzzing since dawn. Huge iron pots bubbled with a thick, hearty stew, large chunks of meat slow-cooked until falling apart, spiced vegetables, and mountains of freshly baked, crusty bread. The delicious aroma drifted across the settlement like a warm, comforting fog. It was my direct order. Feed the army until they cannot move. No limits. For once, the barracks fell completely silent. No drills or shouting today, just the epic snoring of 150 resting knights. Muddy boots and heavy armor lay scattered everywhere. Rooms smelled of sweat, leather, and iron, the true scent of men who earned their rest. Kitchen servants carried massive tubs of steaming hot food throughout the barracks, leaving generous portions at every door. The amazing smell finally defeated their exhaustion. Soldiers dragged their sore bodies out of bed, gathering around the food like moths drawn to a flame. No words, just the sound of hungry warriors devouring their meals. It was the calm after the storm, a sigh of relief after holding their breath. The workers who once marched with some energy now looked like mindless zombies moving on autopilot. Because beneath this peaceful scene, this army was nothing like it was 2 weeks ago. Originally, they were just a mix of borrowed knights, nervous recruits, and inexperienced system troops. Now they were battle-hardened veterans, goblins, gnolls, trolls, and orcs watching gold rank monsters fall, and they had been upgraded by what they believed was sheer divine power, and with prisoners, loot, and absolute trust in a lord who feeds, upgrades, and cares for them. In just 2 weeks, that was enough to build a fierce, loyal force from scratch. Northern threat crushed, cobalt miners secured, the goblin farm is running, new mines discovered, rested fanatically loyal army, and our treasury is recovering. Next on the agenda, the Western Mountains. From my window I watched the pale sun turn the snow to gold, listening to my soldiers celebrating. And that's where we leave it, with our hero taking 5 seconds to feel proud. Then I returned to my desk, because tomorrow the peace ends and the real work of carving out a grand empire begins. Meanwhile, I was riding in my gold-plated rolling palace, surrounded by wolf sculptures and pearl chandeliers, staring out at the frozen void. 5 seconds of pride is all a lord can ever afford. I know what you are thinking, but let's look at this report together, because after so much struggle, these numbers look beautiful. The Knights of the Flying Tiger, where every regular rider was promoted to bronze tier Imperial Citizen Cavalry. Better control, tighter formations, and devastating impact. No longer ordinary recruits, real battle-hardened soldiers. And as for Ratha's Guard, every single member reached Black Iron rank. No exceptions, boasting tougher bodies and sharper combat skills, especially that shield and spear combo that made them a living wall against goblins. They are not elite, but they are enough to make any bandit or monster think twice, all led by 10 gold rank knights. Bronze cavalry in the middle, with iron infantry as our solid foundation, a military pyramid forged in blood and funded by my shrinking pockets. Stood by the window to watch the quiet camp. Contrast was honestly ridiculous. Pillars of smoke rose as the soldiers rested in peace, but I knew exactly what was hiding behind that silence. The war machine sharpening itself daily. Today they rest, celebrating with an epic victory feast. Then came my turn. 3 days after returning, I locked myself in the castle's secret training chamber, sealing the heavy oak door. Outside, Ian and his 9 companions stood guard like golden statues, their combined aura creating an invisible barrier so imposing it would make anyone run. And gold rank warriors standing guard. Overkill maybe, but stick with me here, because when a lord breaks limits, safety comes first. Look at this darkened chamber, smelling of burnt magic crystal, where everything is about to change. Sitting cross-legged in the center of an energy circle drawn on the stone floor, I opened up my system panel. Accumulated experience, 10,520 points, earned through the blood and sweat of all my loyal soldiers. Filtered at a 100-to-1 ratio after thousands of enemy casualties, it was like eating caviar in a dump. Suddenly something tapped my window. 3 soft, deliberate knocks, endless training, and 2 gold rank boss battles. Plenty for what I needed. And promote me to Black Iron Knight. Confirmed. Executing. The numbers began to drop. The numbers plummeted quickly, and then my body decided to have a very dramatic reaction. Felt as if liquid fire was injected into my bone marrow and electricity surged through every single nerve. That was the feeling. 1,000 red-hot needles drilling into me from the inside out. Muscles locked up. Veins on my forehead and arms bulged out like angry serpents. Sweat instantly soaked my clothes, dripping onto the floor. I clenched my jaw so hard my teeth nearly shattered. Only a muffled groan escaped my lips. It was all the weakness I allowed, because amidst the agony, magic was happening. Inside me, a seed of half energy and half physical matter spun rapidly like a tiny star, hungrily devouring the converted experience, becoming denser, more solid, and more real with every heartbeat. Not the wind or road noise, something cold and precise, like frozen knuckles asking for permission to enter, was tearing down my old self, while the rising heat was building up my new version. Only a loud crack, not a bone, but the barrier keeping me trapped as a squire my whole life. That wall I kept hitting since childhood while my brother bypassed it effortlessly, finally shattered like glass inside my soul. And he vanished, and honestly, how do I even describe that feeling to you? Imagine wearing a full body cast your entire life and suddenly it gets ripped off. Everything feels so incredibly light. Everything feels possible. Warm energy flows through channels that once were narrow paths and are now wide open highways. My 5 senses sharpen to their absolute limits. Feel every dust speck in the air and sense the gold nights outside. I heard their breathing right through the solid oak. The muscles grew denser, and my heart beat with massive power. Then my thoughts were racing. Black Iron Knight rank attained. In my eyes, clenched my fists, and felt power coursing through. And then I laughed. Not that maniacal supervillain laugh from when I first discovered the system either, and went right through me, sending a shiver down my spine that had absolutely nothing to do with the weather. Different, deep, personal. Laugh of someone who spent 16 years being known as the weak brother, watching everyone else rise while he remained completely stuck in place, despised and cast aside as the useless family burden, who just shattered his limits with nothing but sheer willpower. Sure, having 10 gold rank knights is awesome, but you and I know that borrowed strength can never compare. Let's be honest, you and I both know a ruler who relies on others is just one betrayal away from losing everything. Energy boiling in my veins, the strength in my bones, and my razor-sharp senses are entirely mine. Nobody gave them to me, and nobody can take them away. Every single experience point was earned through the sacrifice of my soldiers, channeled by the system, and forged directly into my body through pure, agonizing pain. Black Iron rank won't impress my family. Carlos would literally laugh in my face. Leon wouldn't even look up from his spellbook. When Fletcher surpassed this level years ago, none of them know what I know. They don't have what I have. For them, it took years of brutal training. Me, just 1,000 gold coins in army upgrades and 2 weeks of war. First, I need to show you the lovely estate my family gifted me. And tomorrow my army will fight again. And the day after that, and the day after that too. Every battle makes them stronger, which makes me stronger. And today, bronze tomorrow, silver next month, and gold by the end of the year. The limit that trapped me for 16 years wasn't my end, but my starting point. I checked my remaining experience, 1,520 points. Barely spent 1,000 to level up. Rest stays saved, growing with every new battle. I flexed my hands once more, feeling the power vibrating through every single fiber. Then I stood up, adjusted my sweat-soaked clothes, and walked toward the door, to get back to work. An empire doesn't build itself, but it rises much faster when the emperor also grows strong. The next morning, I woke up feeling like a brand new man. My body vibrated with black iron energy, and my senses were incredibly sharp. My muscles moved with unprecedented precision. For 30 seconds, I felt amazing, but then I looked at my desk. Mountains and mountains of endless paperwork, taxes, building permits, land disputes, and settler assignments. The North is basically the kingdom's frozen fist, pointing directly toward territory ruled by the orcs. And to top it off, a massive budget for the banquet. Believe me, this is going to take all of my newfound power. Let's dive into this useless bureaucratic nightmare. Sure, I can smash wooden planks with one punch now, but I still can't stare down my taxes. Trust me, I really tried. Ugh, I collapsed into my chair so dramatically you'd swear I was dying. That groan. Definitely not a warrior, just a tired office worker on a Monday. Nobody warns you about being a cold, powerful protagonist, not just about hunting down monsters. You fight paperwork, and the spreadsheets are winning. Survived orc shamans, troll bosses, and 800 goblins. But a mountain of neighbor disputes over some silly irrigation ditch might actually be the thing that kills me. In my past life, I escaped the corporate hell of office work. I literally died and reincarnated into a fantasy world, and what was waiting for me, more work. Now I use feather quills on parchment instead of spreadsheets, and instead of a passive-aggressive boss, I have 20,000 settlers who need me to personally decide if Farmer Gregor's goat can graze on Farmer Pavel's side of the creek.